We're about to get started here. Okay, all right. Making sure the live stream is live. Bum 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 bum. It's showing live. I'm not showing any video yet, so I'm just making sure that it actually is going. All right. This is good.
It's shown.
There we go. Okay, very good. What's up and welcome to my live unboxing review of the Aorus 17X. This is a very thin RTX 4090 with an i9-14900HX. It's a more reasonably priced RTX 4090. It's not the cheapest though, but this does also come with quite a few premium features such as Advanced Optimus, G-Sync, Windows Hello, and again, like I said, a very thin profile for a full-powered RTX 4090, or at least pretty dang close to full powered. I mean, it does go to 175 watts, but it doesn't hit 175 watts as consistently as some of the more powerful gaming laptops, but it's almost there. It's pretty close. Now, I did review in detail the 2023 version last year, and so today we'll also be looking at what kind of improvements Aorus has made, or Gigabyte, which makes the Aorus laptops, has made for 2024. So yeah, there's not too many differences, but there are some improvements, hopefully. And most importantly, I hope there is some software improvements and maybe some more minor hardware improvements. Maybe the screen is a little bit better. Maybe the CPU power limits have been improved. Those are two areas of semi-weakness in 2023. So overall, this laptop has a ton of potential. We're going to be going over all of the top deals and value comparison versus the competition. I got 5 other laptops that are thinner and very powerful RTX 4090 laptops. Then we've got the biggest pros and cons, and we're going to go through the full checklist, including weighing, testing, ports, benchmarks, and finally we'll wrap it up with 10 games that we're going to play and see how the laptop performs, what kind of thermals we can get with it, fan noise, speakers, everything you want to know about this laptop. We're going to do it in today's live stream. And if you need the shortened version of this, there will be a summary review of everything at the very end, as well as a final summary review where everything is condensed. It'll be put on the main channel as a main video. That said, I try to keep things as entertaining as possible, interact with chat, so please feel free to ask any questions, especially about the Aorus 17X and in general about gaming laptops, and I'll try to help you out. So I already see some questions. Yusuf says, finally the 17X. Please tell me they fixed the power limit issues they had last year, and please more than 300 nits. We're going to find out today. I don't know for sure, one way or the other yet. Your live streams are awesome, man. They helped me a lot last year with the G14 2023. Congrats, dude. That's a great laptop. All right. Display options are a letdown on the 17X. We'll see what we test today with the Spider 5 Elite. I have not tested it yet, so... But you're right, there is no mini LED, so it's pretty much guaranteed to be lower total brightness than the top of the line competition that this is going up against. But at the same time, this is at least undercutting the price of the likes of like the Scar 16 and the Blade 16 and the Alienware X16, but it's not undercutting it by very much. But we're about to get into that comparison right now. So let's go ahead and compare this laptop versus some of the top of the line competition out there in the 16, 17 inch category. And I am primarily comparing this against 16 and other 17 inch laptops today because this is a very thin 17 inch laptop and it's also 16:9 aspect ratio, which also helps it be a little bit smaller. So in terms of overall size, this thing is definitely going to be a more portable-ish 4090 full power compared to some of the other laptops out there. Okay, so Gigabyte Aorus 17X i9-14900HX. So this is a 24-core, 32-thread CPU with an RTX 4070 that goes up to 175 watts. 32 gigs of DDR5 5600 with a 2 terabyte SSD and a QHD 240Hz 100% DCI P3 color gamut display. So in theory, this is a very colorful display with a high refresh rate, and it is 16:9 aspect ratio for those of you that prefer 16:9 aspect ratio gaming or watching videos which are typically more common in the 16:9 aspect ratio. For productivity, I do think 16:10 is a little bit better, giving you a little bit more vertical space, but at the same time, it just kind of depends. Now, obviously, this laptop, I feel like they could have almost put a 16:10 display on this without changing anything about the laptop's footprint. So that's kind of a criticism right off the bat. It's like, we could have had a little bit better screen here, almost an 18-inch screen or 17.5-inch screen or something, if it was just a little bit taller vertically placed. But you can see how thin this laptop is. It's extremely thin for a 17-inch laptop, and it's got big old ventilation on the left, the right, and the rear. And there's this new RGB light bar on the back middle that looks really sick. Actually, I think this I feel like this was this on the 2023 version? Let me just double check that. Using my handy dandy gaming laptop list sheet, we can just go ahead and search Aorus 17X, and boom, we can see what the 2023 version looked like right here. And no, it did not have a light bar on the back. So yeah, that's a nice visual improvement from the 2023 version till now. And it does look really good. It is very bright and vibrant, though it doesn't look as cool as maybe the Scar 16, where it goes across the entire rear of the device. It still looks really good. Okay, so this is going over some of the key features on the Aorus 17X. We can kind of take a look at their marketing a little bit here. A huge focus for them is thinness, as well as a high enough performance profile where you're still getting great performance, but you can also take it with you, slap it into some backpacks a little bit more easily. I think it does compete fairly well against something like the Blade 18, because the Blade 18 is also a little bit thinner, not quite as high, ultra high levels of TDP and performance. And this also has, like you can see, it has a vapor chamber cooling. There's 4 fans in this laptop, and you can see the heat pipes. We're gonna be able to see these when we open this laptop up today. But it is a very interesting thermal cooling solution on this laptop, and it is CNC milled on the like all CNC milled aluminum chassis. So it is also, that makes it a little bit lighter, and that also enables them to make it thinner. Glass touchpad. I don't know. We'll see what I think about the touchpad as I get into it. RGB Fusion light bar, which we're going to show, and it's certainly a very promising laptop in so many ways. But there's some clear downsides to it, as we'll get into testing and everything else. So we're going to go ahead and talk about some of the competitors now. So if you're after value for your money, the Legion Pro 7i. Probably the 2023 version is really the way you'd want to go. You can see it's on sale for $24.99. But if you go for the 2024 version, competitively speaking, you go for 2024 versus 2024, the price will be less different. It'll be probably over $3,000 for the 2024 version. And the 2024 version also has a more competitive 100% DCI P3 color gamut screen, where this is only 100% sRGB, which is probably the biggest downside for the Legion Pro 7i. Now, there's probably better power limits and better thermal management on the Legion Pro 7i, and obviously the price tag's a little bit better. Ports are also a little bit different, but I would say equally good on both units. The Scar 16 costs a bit more than the Aorus 17X. At $36.99, it does offer a mini LED display that is far brighter, up to like over 1,000 nits bright at peak brightness. It is also a 16-inch laptop design and 16:10 aspect ratio on the display. I would say it's more RGBified, and it's a plastic chassis, which has advantages and disadvantages. And I would say the Aorus 17X certainly feels more premium than the Scar 16, just because of the chassis design and the thinness that the Aorus 17X has versus the Scar 16. Performance-wise, Scar 16 also is going to have more performance because of the extra thickness. So that's I guess, an advantage for the Scar 16. Blade 16 has a QHD plus 240 hertz OLED display. This OLED display should be right around the 500, 600 nits-ish mark range, maybe 400 something nits. I don't know. So in that range, not more than 600 for sure. I think it's going to be like 400 and something. But it's OLED, which means less bloom typically than most mini LEDs. It does still have some bloom, and it's very fast response rate. Of course, the nice thing about the Blade 16 is it's also CNC milled aluminum, a bit chunkier, but I think also maybe slightly better cooling, maybe not. It's going to be in the pretty dang competitive ballpark range with the Aorus 17X. Overall price point, though, is quite a bit more than the Aorus 17X at $41.99, while providing, I would say, very compelling or competitively premium features to the 17X in most ways. Both of these have Windows Hello, CNC milled aluminum chassis, glass touchpad. The touchpad, of course, is larger on the Blade, but I'd say the keyboard's also better on the Aorus 17X because of the number pad, and the arrow keys are better as well. Yeah. Alienware X16. So this is another laptop, very competitively priced to the Aorus 17X, but it only comes with the Intel Ultra 9 processor, which is far fewer cores and threads. I can't remember exactly I think it's like 14 cores, 22 threads or something like that. It's way less cores and threads compared to 24 cores, 32 threads. And so for multi-core CPU performance, it's going to be significantly better on the Aorus 17X. The RTX 4090 will be 175 watt. You got that nice RGBified touchpad on the Alienware X16, which looks good. You get the nice OLED ring on the Alienware X16. Almost all of the ports, looks like all of the ports are on the back of this guy, though. Like, you gotta be willing to deal with all the ports being crammed in the back here, which I personally do not like. That said, I have not reviewed the Alienware X16. I'm hoping I can get Dell to send me one, but it is at least promising in terms of laptop performance for gaming. It should be quite good. The Ultra 9 is still a good processor for gaming, but just not as powerful for multi-core rendering. The biggest downside, in my opinion, to the Alienware X16 is the QHD plus 240 Hz 100% DCI-P3 color gamut display, which I think, as far as I know, is still only 300 nits color gamut, or 300 nits bright, which is not a very bright display for a premium gaming laptop. So that's the biggest downside there. The MSI GE78HX i9-14900HX, RTX 4090, 64 gigs of RAM, which is a nice amount of RAM, 2 terabyte SSD, and a QHD 240 hertz display. Again, not mini LED. It's a 17-inch display. There is a number pad on here. We got a nice front light bar and a RGB logo on the back. There's a lot of metal on this laptop. It does feel quite premium. I have reviewed it. We have Windows Hello on here, but there is no G-Sync or Advanced Optimus. And it's also more expensive than the Aorus 17X. The display, when we tested it in 2023, was about, I think, 430 nits. It was a brighter display. That's off the top of my head. Don't quote me for sure on that, but it was a brighter display. It is also a chunkier machine compared to the Aorus 17X, the 17X being a bit thinner. I also don't particularly love that they did gold and red trimming here, and I would prefer more of a neutral color, like silver or gray, so that it can fit into more of a business environment when you turn off the RGB. Or if these were just RGB strips instead, then you can turn the RGB off and it just looks like a gray strip. Overall, the GE78HX is still a great laptop, I think. It's just not priced super competitively for all the features that you get. And that's why I generally would probably recommend going with something like the Scar 16 instead of the GE78HX because of the mini LED display, and it's still the same price as the Scar 16. But overall, the GE78HX is still, I think, a great laptop. And if you got it, I don't think you'd be disappointed with it. Okay, so going back to the Aorus 17X. All right, so we have some nice port selection. It's nice and spread out. We got a full-size keyboard with a number pad. The one downside for sure with the keyboard is that their secondary symbols are not lit up on the Aorus 17X, which we'll show you today. Yeah, otherwise the keyboard, I do like it quite a lot. Okay, I think that's a good overview of the competition versus the Aorus 17X. Let's talk top deals right now. The most cost-effective laptops to buy are going to be these top deals. Right now we have the Lock 15i with the RTX 4050, 12 gigs of RAM, $769. Freaking insane deal. 300 nits full HD display. Then we have the Lock 15i, a little bit step up to the RTX 4060 for $939. The Aorus 7, which is one of the best esports gaming laptops that you can get for $1,049. The Zephyrus G16 with the RTX 4060, normally at $1,449, dropped down to $1,099. Extremely portable, thin laptop with good speakers and good all-around thermals and performance. Definitely one I can recommend. The Omen 16, $1,099 for an RTX 4060. I don't know. It's not an amazing deal. It's not, I don't know. I probably wouldn't have, yeah, my assistant put this one in here. It's a good laptop. It's just not one of my top picks. I don't think I would have put it in here if I was picking it. All right, so that's kind of my honest take around it on the fly. I should have checked these before and swapped that one out. The Legion Pro 5, Ryzen 7 7700HX, RTX 4060, and a QHD 165 Hz display with 300 nits. And it was actually, I think, more like 350 nits when we tested it, $1139. Very nice laptop, a bit chunkier, very good performance for your money, and the QHD display is nice if you need a higher resolution display. The Acer Predator Triton 14 with a QHD 240Hz mini LED display for $1299 and a 4070, which is also nice as well. I have not reviewed this one, but it does seem a very promising 14-inch laptop. The Acer Predator Helios 16 i9 13900HX, the RTX 4080, and we got a QHD 240Hz. Nice combo overall for $1799, and one of the best RTX 4080 deals overall currently in the market with some great ports. A bit more plasticky build to this laptop, but still a good amount of power and performance for your money. And I think most people will be very happy with spending that much money and getting that much performance. The RTX 4080 version of the Pro 7i is the next best deal on the 4080. Great RGB, great cooling, and great performance for your money. Main downside, 500 nits, QHD plus 240Hz display, only has 100% sRGB color gamut. The Legion Pro 5, the next up is Legion Pro 7i 4090 version for, what is this? $450 more, gets you the 4090 version, and that's still a pretty good deal and about the right amount of price increase to upgrade to the 4090. So it's still relatively great price to performance for your money. So those are the top 10 deals currently, except for the Omen 16. So it took us top 9 deals. Let's go ahead and move into the next segment of the live stream. And let me check chat as well. Okay. All right. Ali Shika says, I heard on Reddit, blades are not comfortable with their keyboard temperatures while under load. I have a Blade 18, and the keyboard temperature is not a problem at all on the Blade 18. It does have a third fan that helps keep the keyboard wrist rests cool. Versus the Blade 16, it does definitely get warmer on the wrist rest. Am I going to review the Raider 18HX? We'll see, TCam. I got to return the MSI Titan 18HX to MSI, and maybe they'll send me the Raider or the Stealth 18. Omar says, what gaming headset would you recommend, if I may ask? Well, I can tell you the one I'm using right now is this Razer. I can't remember. It's the one I did this, like Best Buy sent this over as a sponsored item, but I've actually been using it and it's been really good. It has Bluetooth on it. I think it only cost $100 when I bought it. It's really comfortable. It's got a removable mic input right here for a boom mic. And so you can just press a button and it switches it between a Bluetooth mode, which can connect to the laptop or your phone, or you can plug it in with a USB. Maybe I can send chat the link for that here. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. I've been definitely enjoying this headset a lot, and I've worn it to the gym. Actually, I don't know. I've taken mine to the gym and used it with my Bluetooth on my headphones, probably 5 or 6 times now, and it's still been great. So that's the link right there to the Razer headset, and it's the Razer Black Shark V2 is the name of it. And yeah. So no, don't feel like you have to buy that or anything, but it's the one I recommend right now because it works with Bluetooth and it works with this dongle, and it's got a pretty good mic on it. So good for talking to your friends and other stuff, you know. So it's good all around mic. Okay, all right, moving on to the next segment of the live stream. We talked pretty much about on the biggest pros and cons already. Let's get to the laptop unboxing. All right, so this is a nice secondary box that this is not the primary box. There's another box that this is shipped inside of, and I think it's a good overall box. I mean, it's not one that I would want to ship with because there is a secondary bigger box that has a little more cushion to it to help keep this box protected. A nice simple design, which is fine with me. Okay, so Aorus 17X right there. Let's go ahead and open this up. Again, pretty simple designing here, but it's, I think, effective to make you feel like you're getting a nice product, like this like cardboard with some imprinting on it. You can kind of see the imprinting if I turn it in the light a little bit. Team up, fight on. And the Aorus logo. I do love the Aorus logo. It's like an eagle with an arm uppercutting the sky, which is just hilarious to me. Got the laptop right here. Let's take a look at the power adapter. All right, so the power adapter cable is only about 4 feet long or so, maybe, yeah, about 4 feet long. Not a very long power adapter cable, which is kind of sad. And then the power adapter itself, right here, all right, is a medium to larger size. It's a Chicone 330 watt. Let's go ahead and zoom in so you can see this. Chicone 330 watt. And you can see the power adapter plug right here. So it's just this round power adapter plug. Pretty basic, but also not the largest. It is smaller than the big beefier 330 watts that are out there. So the laptop comes in this sleeve right here. And you can see that the all CNC milled aluminum chassis is all metal, top and bottom. And we got this nice holographic logo right here. I do love the holographic logo here. It adds a nice pizzazz to the laptop when you open and close it. And we also have a bit of a holographic Aorus thing here too. And this is where the light bar is right here. All right. Let's go ahead and open this up. Got a nice felt fingerprint removal microfiber here. Choo, 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 choo. All right. And we also have some warranty card information. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. All right, so trying not to rip this. There we go. Aorus 17X Quick Start Guide. Using Aorus notebook for the first time. Plug it in to be able to power it on. Power button's right here. There's a quick tour if you want to pause it and look at this, but it's, I mean, it's nothing really that special. Probably better just look at the marketing stuff online if you want to see this information. But it's got some information about the ports and where everything is on the laptop. And then I'm pretty sure these other pages are just different languages because, you know, this laptop is sold in a whole bunch of different markets. We also have the warranty card right here. Let's go ahead and take a quick look in the warranty here. I mainly want to see, okay, so it's a 1-year battery warranty. Proof of purchase. They talk about a global repair center. So this sounds like this comes with a global warranty of some kind. I'm guessing this is only a 1-year warranty, but I like to verify because sometimes Aorus gives like a 2-year warranty. Yeah, I don't really see where it says the length, but I'm going to assume it's a 1-year warranty for now. I tried reading pretty much everything on there. All right, so let's go ahead and put the box away now, and we'll get the laptop flipped over and set up, and we'll take the bottom off. All right. So, just to go over some of the thickness and build of this, you can see it is a very thin laptop overall. Definitely less than 1 inch thick, generally speaking. There is some rubber feet here on the bottom that make it a little bit thicker, but you know, it looks like it's like 0.7 or maybe 0.8 inches thick, pretty much throughout the entire machine, which is really great. I love that, especially if you need to pack this into a backpack. It will go into a backpack quite a bit easier than a lot of other thicker machines. But it's also not the thinnest machine either. There's definitely some thinner machines out there, but for a 17-inch full-powered RTX 4090, I feel like it's an appropriate level of thinness to give the user a good amount of portability. Okay. Hello from Ukraine. You are my favorite techno reviewer. You have the most honest tests and reviews. Thank you very much for your work. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know how to read your name. Otherwise I would have. What do you think about the Acer Triton 17X? I set it up last night, actually. Acer finally sent me one. I've got to contact Acer now. And they're going to be sending me the Predator 16 2024, the Predator 18 2024, and now I have the Acer Triton 17 2023 version. I don't think there's a 2024 version of that one yet, but that's got the QHD 240 hertz mini LED, 250 hertz mini LED. So it's even faster response rate than most displays. And it is very bright. I believe it says it's an HDR 1000 display. Now, to take these screws off, you do need to have a T6 screwdriver. There's a link in the description if you need to get a screwdriver that's a T6, but it's quite a bit harder to take the screws on and off. I'm not sure if you can. This one might be easier to see what a Torx looks like. But they look, yeah, they have like, it's like a spiral or hexagonal, it's kind of like a hexagonal Phillips head to it. I'm not sure if it's actually hexagonal. It's probably like octagonal or something, but it's much better for not stripping the screws on a laptop. You can be confident about taking it off, but it's, you know, every time you turn it, you're not going to be stripping the screw. Like I've definitely stripped some screws trying to take laptops apart before. So I do prefer laptops that have the T6, or they're just really well designed with like a Phillips head screwdriver. That's the two types that I like. So I do like this Torx screwdriver head. Now notice that some of these screws, like this one, is smaller than these two. So when you're taking your laptop apart, if you get the Aorus 17X, make sure it is the appropriate length screw goes into the right hole, or you're gonna have a bad day, okay? I mentioned this last time, but I saw a picture of someone on Reddit who had put the long screw in to the short hole, and it drilled a hole through their keyboard deck. That is a bad day. Okay, so I'm gonna put these back here. There is two screws here in the middle. This was technically these are on the outside, so we'll do it like that. Okay. All right, so this is looking good, looking good. Now we're gonna need to take the chassis apart, which is the little bit trickier part. You're gonna want something like this toothpick, and you also might need one of these pry tools that I have here, like this. All right, so let me go ahead and lift this off, and we'll turn this way, and we'll go ahead and see if we can get this to come up for us. I think we have all of the screws out. There is no pop-up screw on this laptop. Pop-up screws are screws that are designed to make it easier to get it initially started. But this is the rear. Yeah, we're able to get into the chassis there. It does look like the back piece to this laptop is plastic, not aluminum. So it's not all CNC milled. It's just the top, bottom, and probably keyboard deck. But like the rear of the laptop appears to be plastic. So keep that in mind. Like this piece right here. This piece right here behind the hinge is plastic. Not too bad to open so far, but this this metal bottom kind of taking little pieces of my plastic tools off because they're so sharp. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this down again. And we will take it off. Are you guys ready for the big reveal of the 4-fan vapor chamber cooling system? I'm really excited about this. Let's go ahead and take a look. Shabam! That is a gorgeous interior for a gaming laptop. There is a lot to like about this underside right off the bat. From an aesthetics perspective, I really love that it's like symmetrical. I don't know, like you've got two fans, two bigs and a small on each side. All of these heat fans are just gorgeous. I love the copper. You got the vapor chamber right here through the middle is awesome. You got I believe this is a 99 watt hour. Yeah, 99 watt hours battery right here. And that's excellent. And we have two SSDs here and here, two 1 terabyte SSDs. already installed. So I'm not sure if these are in RAID 0 or not. I believe they may be in RAID 0. Though I did run CrystalDiskMark already, and I didn't think the speeds were that high for a RAID 0 setup, but I guess we'll see. Okay, we also have the Wi-Fi right here, which is going to be a, let's see what brand this is. It's an Intel AX210 NGW. And then we have 2 RAM SODIMM slots right here and right here. All right, and looks like it is Samsung branded DDR5 5600 RAM right here. And yep, that's the RAM. It's upgradable. It's 2 16 gig sticks with this laptop. And yeah, this is a great overall design. I think the design has tremendous potential. The cooling appears to be really well thought out, with lots of potential. But we'll have to actually see what it does in real life performance and compare that versus the competition before we can be like, yay or nay, you know? So, but I love the fact that it's a 99 watt-hour battery. That gives you some advantage when you're trying to go for max battery performance. I like that we have 2 SSD slots at least, and we have SODIMM slots are upgradable, the vapor chamber. The speakers do look a bit larger, at least if this is the entire speaker. It looks like there may be a bass and a tweeter in here, and a bass and a tweeter on the right side as well. But I don't know. We'll have to see what they actually sound like, because this part of the speaker right here does look a little small, and it may not be that good of a speaker, or it may be a good one. It's one of those things where it's harder to tell because it is a large part of the underside design. So hopefully they're good quality. I think that's everything we needed to go over on the inside. But yeah, this thing theoretically looks like a phenomenal laptop design as far as like usability and upgradability and thermal potential. It looks like it's got the whole package, at least from an internal design standpoint. And they didn't really waste any space, which is another sticking point for me when, you know, laptops are designed and there's still a ton of extra interior space where they could have put more SSDs or better speakers or what have you. And this laptop doesn't seem like they wasted almost any of the interior space, which is good. Okay, so let me go ahead and just pull this off and make sure that we're all connected. And I also want to reconnect with chat and see if you guys are asking any question. Dark Raider asks, what is RAID 0? So RAID, when a laptop has 2 SSDs and you pair the SSDs together, you can use, basically the motherboard can use segments of both SSD to overwrite the space. So you write a file onto both SSDs at once so that it can write twice as fast. Basically, with only one SSD, the SSDs can only go so quick. But when they're in RAID 0, then they basically can go twice as quick, at least for certain types. Like some SSDs do better. It's usually not actually double the performance, but it's close in a lot of stuff. That said, even if the SSDs were not in RAID 0, I think you would still have great SSD performance and probably not notice much of a difference with today's modern NVMe SSDs. So I don't think it's too big a deal to try to go for RAID 0. It is just more convenient as well in Windows to have one 2 terabyte drive instead of 2 1 terabyte drives. Because when you start running out of space on the 1 terabyte, then like you're trying to download a game, and then there's not enough space, and you have to move it to the second drive. I don't know. So there's some nice advantages to having it be all combined into one from a usability standpoint as well. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and make sure all of these short screws are put in first, so we don't put them in a long screw into the short screw hole. $40.90 with G-Sync, yes. What's up, Luca? From Italy, huh? Wow. Everyone's tuning in from everywhere around the world. Where else is everyone from? We've got Ukraine. We've got Italy. Love to see the variety. And everyone is welcome here as long as you are accepting of other people. So, yeah. Ghana. That's cool. Czech Republic. Nice. What config is this? This is the i9 14900HX with the RTX 4090, the highest end config that is sold. India, Bosnia, Morocco. Oh my goodness. You all are from everywhere. That's so cool. Like our love of gaming laptops bringing us all together in one location. Three more screws left. Toronto, Canada, Texas. Nice. Always good to have a fellow Texan here. Last screw. There is a lot of screws. I will say in terms of downsides to taking this laptop apart, lots of screws and no pop-up screw would be probably the two biggest downsides to this laptop's disassembly. That said, it's still an overall fairly easy laptop to take apart because you don't have any secondary things you have to take apart when you're taking the laptop, taking it apart. So, yeah, okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and plug the laptop in. And then we're going to go into the BIOS if I can get us in there. I've not looked in the BIOS at all yet. So this is going to be an experiment. We'll go with tapping the delete and F2 keys. One of those usually gets us into the BIOS, depending on how the manufacturer sets it up with the motherboard. There we go. Load previous values. No. Okay. All right. So here it is. This is the Aorus 17X BIOS. It says we're in advanced mode already. We didn't have to do anything to get into advanced mode. We can see some specs. Raptor Lake i9 14900HX. Peripherals. I did update the BIOS, by the way, using the Gigabyte Control Center update system. So I didn't have to do anything other than just click go ahead and enable update. Switchable graphics is currently set to dynamic. We can switch it to hybrid or discrete. Dynamic means advanced Optimus. Thunderbolt 5-volt power switch is disabled. SATA NVMe configuration. Let's see here. So, yeah, I don't. Yeah. PCI 0 and 1.0 non-RAID physical disks. So these are non-RAIDed together. As far as I can tell, at least in here. Usually you would set up the RAID in the BIOS, but you can set up RAID 0, I think, inside of Windows as well now. We can see that the memory is being ran at 5600, total 32 gigs. You can set an administrator password, and that's pretty much it. So I'm not seeing anything in here for enabling undervolting. which is probably the main thing I would hope that would be in here. But maybe undervolting is enabled by default. I'm not sure. I have not tried yet. So we're going to go ahead and discard changes and reset because we didn't change anything anyway, so we don't want to check it or anything. I looked up the 17X and it's on sale for $38.99 in Ottawa, so that's Canadian dollars. What is that in United States dollars? Let me see. $38.99 Canadian to USD. That's $28.39. That's a pretty good deal to me. I don't know. You're like being sad faced, but that's a pretty good deal for a laptop with Windows Hello, 100% DCI P3 color gamut display, CNC milled aluminum chassis. I mean, there's a lot of pros to this. I'm just saying in terms of raw specs and the premium features that it comes with. And normally, so if it was $28.99 or $2,800 something, normally it's, I think full price is like $3,600 or something like that. So that's a big discount, at least. Laptop 5090 possibly coming out this summer. Could possibly be coming out tomorrow. I don't know when it's coming out. I'm not sure when it actually is coming out, but I hope. My prediction is probably CES 2025, which would be January 2025. That'd be my prediction for when it is going to come out. I thought Aorus was Canadian. So Aorus is made by the company called Gigabyte. Aorus is like their high-end gaming laptop lineup for Gigabyte. And Gigabyte is based in Taiwan, like Taipei over in Taiwan. Okay, so here's Windows Hello. Let's turn it to me so the camera can see me. And there we are. We're logged in. Beautiful. So you can see we have a matte display. Matte displays usually don't look as poppy for color, but they don't have as much reflection off of the display. And so for example, right now, you can't really see, right? Like normally you've got my, like, you know how my lights in my wall behind me over here, like my RGB lights over here, normally they're so visible on all of these glossier displays that we've been reviewing lately. I like the OLED displays. It's just super easy to see those. With this matte display, right now you can't see those glossy light reflections almost at all. I've got my bright light here right next to it, so it does get some reflections, but it's still a lot more minimal catching the reflections. But matte displays also just don't come across as poppy. And by poppy, I mean usually the colors and the contrast don't pop out quite as much. Okay. So we have removed the bottom. We have not done the weight check. Let's do quality control and weight check and flex test. All right. So weight check. Aorus claims this laptop is 6.17 pounds, I believe. Let's go ahead and see how heavy it is according to my scale that I just bought. A new one, hopefully is easier for the camera to pick up. All right, so here we go. Gonna have to lower the camera a little bit. And we'll tilt it and we'll do this. All right, so it's claiming 6.68 ounces. So 6 pounds, 6.8 ounces out of 16 ounces. Let's see here. Gotta do some quick math. So 6.4 pounds is what my scale is measuring this at. But it's also, it's lighter weight is why I'm saying it's good, but it's not as good as what Aorus claims online, which is, that's a big part of what I'm testing. How does it stack up to the claims? And we'll put the power adapter on here as well. We'll see how much that is. So 8 pounds, 11 ounces with the power adapter on there. And there you go. So the power adapter being a little over 2 pounds for the power adapter. All right. Let's go ahead and pull this back. And we'll pop this up. All right, and Windows Hello test once again. Good, got me in. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and do a flex test now. We'll see how flexy this CNC milled aluminum chassis is, okay? So very little flex, very little flex. Just a little bit of flex, not much there. Very little flex, very little flex. It's like the rubber feet is flexing. That said, over here in the middle above the touchpad, definitely some flex in the keyboard deck itself. Along the right side, very little flex, very firm feeling, very firm feeling. A bit of flex over here at the top. Very firm feeling on the left. Very firm feeling all the way down. And most importantly, where you put your wrists right here, very firm on the two areas where the wrist rests will take the most weight. Now, this keyboard is like a chiclet style keyboard, very soft to the touch, and generally I like it. And there's lots of functionality to the keyboard. The main issue I have with the keyboard is that it is the secondary symbols on the keyboard are not backlit. So let me go ahead and show you that. So you can see this has per key RGB backlighting, which is great. A more premium feature for sure, but each key, the secondary function is not lit up. So the brightness down and up here, not lit up, but the F3 and F4 portion is. LCD not lit up. So if you need to be able to tap the secondary functions in the dark, it can be a bit hard to remember which key you need to press, which is definitely a downside for this keyboard, without a doubt. There's also no caps lock indicator light right here. And there is no FN lock either. So FN lock at the top up here, normally you could press, well, on a lot of laptops this year, you can press FN plus escape, and that would take you into FN lock mode, and you could press these buttons up here as the, you can make it so that it's either the F4 key or the brightness up key as the primary press. For when you press FN to F4, it does the opposite. Now, when you press FN, notice that it highlights all of the F keys a different color, makes them all white. And as well, all the other keys along the right side here that change functionality, they also change in backlighting. So like the arrow keys turn into home and page up, page down. And all of these keys also have, a lot of them have secondary functions along the top row as well that are then usable or accessible. So let's go over all the keyboard functions. But we still need to do one other thing for the quality control, and that is the hinge. Okay, let's go ahead and see this hinge. Okay, so we're gonna move it. And let me zoom the camera out a little bit better so you can see how it's moving here. It feels, notice that I can open it with one finger, no problem. All right. And in general, this hinge is one of the least wobbly hinges I have seen in any laptop. And the hinge itself is also very firm. Do you guys see how firm this is? Relative to almost all the other laptops I've reviewed this year, this is probably the best laptop hinge firmness that I've seen. There's still some wobble, but it's pretty good. And it just feels like a premium pull when you open it, which I love that. That said, the hinge design itself looks like it's got two connecting points right here on the left and right with a pin that goes inside. Generally, I tend to like this kind of hinge design. and it usually lasts a long time. Usually. Better than the ones that stick up with the pins on the outside, because I don't know, like this kind of pinning system can be larger and potentially go all the way through the system here. I don't know, it just usually is good, but as long as the glue and plastic right here for this like this part is plastic, you know, as long as the glue on the underside of the display is staying good and all the screws stay together, I think this hinge will last a long time, which I do like that overall. It's very important for a laptop's longevity. Okay, more so than the Blade 16. Blade 16 is pretty dang good, especially since it's lighter weight with the OLED. The actual display is OLED, it's lighter weight. In terms of rigidity, I don't know. I think that it's just like the smooth pullness of it and how firm it feels when you let go. That feels so good with this. I'd have to, like, this is better than my Blade 18 screen. I can kind of show you the wobble. You see how wobbly my Blade 18 screen can be sometimes? It is pretty noticeably wobbly on the Blade 18, relatively speaking. Just because I think the Blade 18 display is really heavy and it's just not as tightened. And maybe it's also, it's a year of use on the hinge, so it's probably lightened up the hinge stiffness a little bit since I got it. But overall, really like the build quality and feel of the quality of the machine. It feels like a premium machine, which is great. I love that. Especially for a little bit higher price point. I think it's very important for it to have the right build feel to be able to make it worth the money. Okay. We're moving on to the next segment, which is going to be... we were talking keyboard earlier, but that's kind of a little further down the list. Let's go ahead and do the ports. Let's do it in order. We'll get to the keyboard and touchpad when it comes up on the list. Okay, analyze and review the ports. Now, this laptop has a Thunderbolt 4, which is great. Let me go ahead and pull up the tech specs page so we can get all of the little details, the nitty-gritties on the ports. So on the left side, we have two Type A USB 3.2 Gen 2s. So let me show you the ports as we go along. All right, so here is the USB 3.2 Gen 2, which is the latest. And then we have our headset port as well, right there in the front left. And then on the rear, let's do the rear next. And there's the RGB light bar right there. The rear, we have a USB. Sorry, on the rear, we have an HDMI 2.1. We have a mini display port 1.4. And then we have an RJ45 Ethernet port that's downward facing, which is not as good as an upward facing because you might have to lift the laptop up to unplug it. Then we also have our power adapter port as well. So power adapter, HDMI, mini display port, which is good for VR. This is a really good port for VR headset output. And then, I mean, you can do HDMI as well, but mini DisplayPort goes directly to DisplayPort. Easier to translate the video signal out to VR stuff. And then you have the upside down Ethernet port right here. And there's the RGB light bar. The light bar will turn off after about 30 seconds of inactivity of touching the laptop to save battery. All right, and so here's the right side. We have our third USB-A 3.2, and let's just double check it. I think it's USB-A 3.2 Gen 2, and then we have a Type-C Thunderbolt 4 with USB 4, DisplayPort 1.4, and Power Delivery 3.0. So you can charge the laptop with this Thunderbolt port. You can use an external eGPU, and you've got high-speed data transport as well through there, and display output through Thunderbolt docks or whatever. So overall, the ports on this are pretty good. If there was a complaint, it's probably that there's only one total USB-C, because you only have the Thunderbolt 4 for USB-C, that's it. It's nice to have two of them sometimes. And then the other downside is there's no full-size SD card slot or in any SD card slot at all. Micro, mini, full-size, nothing. So for content creators, it's a little bit of a disadvantage to have to use a USB to plug it in. Now, as far as overall ports, it's pretty good, especially since you got the mini display port. But if it was my design choice, I would have put another USB-C with DisplayPort support instead of the mini DisplayPort, because the USB-C port is just more valuable and more functional for more things. So I hope the next year's version of this laptop will have the mini DisplayPort swapped out and maybe a SD card slot added. That would be a pretty sweet change to make. But generally, high quality ports and good port placement will make the ports pretty usable overall on this laptop. Now, this laptop, we already did the BIOS, so now we're gonna do the bloatware evaluation. And the good news is, this laptop did not come with antivirus, I don't think. Let me see here. Did it? I don't think I removed it. And it's good. I didn't have any pop-ups. I didn't have any annoying thing I had to remove. And there's almost no bloatware on here at all. There's just a little bit. You got like Luminar Neo, and you got, I think there's a Stable Diffusion already installed on here, which is an AI image generator. And that's about it though. There's almost no extra applications on here at all. Aside from the Gigabyte Control Center and Dolby Access, which you need to control your speakers. So Gigabyte Control Center in here, but it's the first laptop I've set up without an antivirus doing pop-ups on me constantly until I removed it. So big kudos to Aorus for not trying to nickel and dime their customers by adding extra spyware, bloatware that slows down the computer. Now, initially setting up the software, I did take a photo of it. This is the little window that pops up when I first turned the laptop on and connected it to the internet. It went through and downloaded 5 things, took about maybe 20 minutes to do this. This installed a bunch of stuff, you know, things like the control software and other things from the latest stuff online. And then in addition, I also had to go into the control center and go to the update tab and do some additional updates. I think there's like 6 other updates inside of here. And that includes a BIOS update that was downloaded through the Gigabyte update software, and it just did things flawlessly and no problem in terms of updating everything, which was great. It was very easy to update the BIOS. It was very easy to update everything else on the laptop. Overall setup before the laptop was pretty much fully usable was maybe about 30, 40 minutes, which is definitely below average compared to most of the laptops that I set up. And of course, I have to install my other applications and everything that I use for testing. But those were the initial thought. I'm starting to take more screenshots so that you guys can get some of the setup process that I go through when I run into things that are really annoying or that are really good about the setup process. Okay, so let's talk webcam quality and Windows Hello. So this does have Windows Hello. I will demonstrate it for you again. I'm gonna go ahead and lock the laptop and press enter, and it logged me right in. So far it's been working great, no problems at all for Windows Hello. And let's go ahead and take a look at the camera, see if it's any good. Eduardo says, hello mate, did the screen look perform better than the 2023 version? I'm not sure yet, I haven't tested it. We're gonna be testing it here very soon. So we're recording a video This is me talking to the camera. I'm gonna start typing on the keyboard and I'm gonna continue talking to see if it interrupts the audio or if it's good or not. I am noticing a webcam indicator light up here telling me that the webcam is in use, which is great for your privacy so you can know if there's electricity going to the camera. We'll take a couple photos. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at those beauties. Okay, so camera quality is, all right, we can see the Lumix. You can barely read the logo. Can't really see that it says GH5 right there on the camera. Beard hair detail is pretty minimal. There's a little bit of detail, but it's pretty minimal. Overall skin tone, I feel like it's a little bit bluish on the skin tones. So skin tone reading may not be that good. It may be being thrown off by this backlighting to the image, but let's go ahead and take a look at the audio that we recorded as well as the mic quality. So here we go. I'm going to put the microphone closer to the Aorus speakers. We're recording a video. This is me talking to the camera. I'm going to start typing on the keyboard and I'm going to continue talking to see if it interrupts the audio or if it's good or not. I am noticing a webcam indicator light up here telling me that the webcam is in use. Okay, so the audio sounded pretty clear. Keyboard typing was definitely audible when typing though, so that's a little bit of a downside there. I would say the onboard audio was surprisingly clear. The video was just, it's okay. Okay. Overall webcam quality, I'm gonna give it a 6.5, 7, right around 6.75. I think that's probably about the fairest. It could be noticeably better, especially in terms of just overall detail, and smarter about its color balance choice, because it was definitely, I think, following the color balance choice of the lights behind me, which admittedly is a bit hard to do perfectly. A lot of the laptops do mess up on that, but yeah. Okay, keyboard and mouse. Let's talk keyboard and mouse. Okay. So, overall design on the keyboard and trackpad. Notice how big these wrist rests are. There's lots of place to put your wrists without hitting the touchpad. Like, you know, you look at a laptop like the Blade 18 and Blade 16, the touchpad is so big, you're gonna accidentally touch the touchpad pretty often. This one is still large, but you're not gonna hit it as often. And at the same time, it's not as big, so you can't do as expansive as gestures or do as long of swipes because it's not as large. So it's a trade-off. It's pros and cons. I do like my giant touchpad on my Blade 18. I do like it better than this one. Now, in terms of feel, this is a glass trackpad. It feels incredibly smooth, and it feels very good to type on or to click with overall. You also have got this Aorus logo, like eagle face on the trackpad itself. It's pretty subtle, but it's definitely noticeable, especially in the right light. And it looks pretty cool. I like the design overall. All right, we're gonna talk keyboard in a second, but I'm gonna address the super chat. Thank you so much for the super chat, Casita. What do you recommend for a $2,000 G14 or a $2,000 G16? I would probably go, if it was my money, I would go 2000. Okay. So recently, the 2023 version of the G14 with the RTX 4080 was on sale for $2,100. That's what I would buy out of those two potentials. Because, yeah, 4080, way more performance. But I think normally it's $2,500. It was a $400 sale like a couple weeks ago. But I don't know when it's going to go back on sale again, so that's the question mark. So assuming that's $2,000 G14, G16 for the new 2024 versions, which is I think what you're asking, I would go G16 in that case because the 240 hertz OLED display is quite a bit higher refresh rate, and I do prefer a little bit larger display personally. But that depends on if you like something more portable or not. But yeah, I would go G16 if it was my money for 2024 versions. Okay, let's talk keyboard in detail and go over all the functionality that we got on this bad boy. All right, so starting in the top left corner, try to get you in focus. The escape key is a fan profile switch button. F1 is put your laptop to sleep. Wi-Fi disable, enable, brightness down, brightness up. We'll scooch down a little bit. Got your monitor switch button. Your, I believe, lock button. The F, let's just try it. F6, yeah, lock button. And then rotating some more. Volume mute, volume down, volume up. Trackpad disable. Trackpad disable. Airplane mode. AI mode enable disable. Pause break. Insert enable. You can enable an insert function or disable it. Home, but also print screen when you press FN. Scroll lock and num lock. Page up, page down, home and end right here in the top right corners. So you have dedicated page up, page down, home and end, as well as pressing FN plus the arrow keys will also do page up, page down, home and end. Now you also have this full-size number pad, which is really nicely spaced and separated out, making it easy to use overall. The main downside is the 0 key is not wide, so you got the arrows, which are full-size arrow keys, kind of intruding a little bit into the number pad. Overall, I really like this keyboard. I just want all of these secondary functions, all of them, because there's a lot of them on the keyboard here. I want them all to get backlighting. The end key, the asterisk, the parentheses, the volume up, volume down, everything needs to be backlit on here, and that would make this keyboard almost perfect or really, really high quality. As it is, I definitely got to dock it a little bit because of the non-secondary keyboard backlighting, especially on a more premium product where you really should expect that feature to be there. Questionable font choice. I don't mind this font at all. I think the font's fine, but that's up to you. It's kind of personal preference. What gaming laptop brand is the best in terms of their QC? I think they're all pretty close, but the best way to QC a laptop is to buy it from a place you can return it to in case there's QC problems. Any laptop brand can have a QC problem. And that's the truth. So you want to make sure that there's a 100% return policy, in my opinion, if you're going to buy any laptop. That's my personal, like if I'm going to spend $4,000 or $2,000 or even $1,000, I want to make sure I can return it with no penalties if it has problems. But usually once you get a laptop and if there's no problems, it's usually not an issue, you know? So, but if there is going to be a problem with your laptop, the most likely scenario is right after you buy it. So that's the best time to have a good return policy, at least a 2-week return policy, so you can really test that thing out and make sure it's good. Okay, we're on to testing the display, nits, color gamut, and contrast. Let's go ahead and plug in the Spider 5 Elite and see what we get. Okay. Scooch this up a little bit more. There we go. All right, so this Spider 5 Elite is a tool that will suck in the light from the center of this little Spider 5 Elite dongle, and it's going to tell us how much color gamut this little guy is sensing from the display, as well as the brightness, the contrast. And it'll give us an idea of the image quality, as well as, you know, how easy it's going to be able to see this laptop display in varying rooms of different brightness. Who has better return policy? Usually actual laptop brands or third-party sites. That just depends on which laptop brand and which third-party site. Generally, I would say Best Buy has the best return policy out of any retailer that I've been with, except maybe Costco. Costco has some pretty good return policy, but Costco's laptop selection and pricing is usually not nearly as good as Best Buy. But sometimes you can get good deals at Costco, depends. Generally, Best Buy, though, if you have the Total Tech membership, which costs $200 a year, you get a warranty with the laptop purchase that lasts 2 years, accidental coverage included. And it also gives you a 45-day return policy, which is insane. So, yeah, it gives you a great combination. I think the default return policy is either 14 days or maybe 30 days, depending on what reward zone account you have with them. Amazon return policy really varies a lot depending on which reseller you're dealing with. Sometimes it's really crappy, sometimes it's good. Official Amazon return policy on their, if you're buying directly from Amazon, is usually pretty good. I think it's 30 days with full refund. If you're talking about Newegg, I believe is shorter. And they do give 100% refund, I believe, as long as the product... I can't remember. I have to review Newegg's policy. I think Newegg's policy is pretty good, but it's not as good as Best Buy. I think it's a 30-day at Newegg. But they might charge a restocking fee if you don't have the laptop be in perfect condition or something. It needs to basically still be brand new to get 100% refund, I think. You need to not damage it at all and return every single item in the original box and all that stuff. Whereas Best Buy is like, oh, you brought the laptop with the power adapter, here's a full refund. Like, you may not even have the box with it, and they'll still give you a full refund. It's kind of crazy. Amazon's 90 days. Ooh, that's interesting. Grim says, do you think it's better to wait for the 5090 laptop or purchase current 4090 as they are on sale in my country? That's going to be so hard to know right now because we don't know when the 5090 is coming out. And I would generally say, if you need a laptop right now, make sure that if you're buying it now is the season of sales. So make sure that if you buy now, that you're getting a good sale so that when the next series comes out in 6 months, 8 months is probably when I'm thinking it's going to come out, probably January 2025, I think we'll have something come out. At least by then, you'll be like, hey, I got a good deal because it's $800 cheaper than the new one or $1,000 cheaper than the new one, you know. So that's the main thing I would say. If you buy now, make sure you get it when it's on sale. Okay. And the other thing is, do you really need to upgrade right now? Because if you already have something that's great, then probably might be better to wait if you already have something that's good. If you don't have something that's good, then now's still a pretty good time to buy because these products are really powerful and still can get everything done. Just look for a good deal if you buy now. Okay, all right, so 100% of sRGB. Keep in mind the Spider 5 Elite underestimates by about 7%. 88% of Adobe translates to 95%. 92% of the P3 translates to 99% of the P3. Let's check out the brightness and contrast. What do we got? 347 for the brightness, 880 to 1 for the contrast. So still not a super bright display and still not super contrasty like a mini LED display would be. Now, 347 nits is still pretty dang usable in about 80 to 90% of scenarios. It still looks really good, especially in my room here or out in my living room. It's not a problem to use, but I do prefer over 400 nits on my displays if I was going to be buying a laptop myself. So I hope Aorus can up the brightness closer, hopefully, to 500 to be more competitive with many of the other top laptops out there. So I would say the main thing about the brightness is how bright of an environment do you really want to use this in? If you plan on using it outdoors or really bright environments, you probably want a brighter screen in particular. Or if you just really want a poppy screen with higher contrast, go for like an HDR 1000 mini LED instead. Because at this price point, over $3,400, you can probably get that poppy display with a mini LED if you wait for the right sale. There's not too many that are going to be cheaper than this one in terms of pricing, at least not with all these same features set. This is still cheaper than almost all the mini LED laptops out there, but there's probably some. If you shop around on my list, you can definitely find some, I think. Okay, so overall, I want more brightness from Aorus on their next laptop. Let's go over 400 nits next time at least, okay? Come on, Aorus, you can do it. You guys have some amazing desktop monitors. You can definitely put a more amazing laptop display in this laptop. Okay, so that's very similar to the 2023 version. I believe that tested also around the 350 nits mark, or a little bit less than that, maybe. Okay, laptop control software evaluation and tutorial. Let's go ahead and get into that. All right. So, Gigabyte Control Center is the primary. This is the wrong screen. There we go. So Gigabyte Control Center is the primary place where you're going to update your software and control your laptop. This is the home screen. We've got our disks here. This is the kind of dashboard. We got general, where we can change our power profiles and fan controls here. We got AI Nexus. Well, in general, there's also all these little switches right here on the right. Let me go ahead and zoom in because the text is kind of small. We have AI Eye Care, Auto RGB Power Savings, Auto Panel Refresh Rate. So this will drop the refresh rate on the panel when you are in battery mode. I might disable this, honestly. I think when I was using the laptop in battery mode, it was getting a little stuttery looking. So I think it's probably because of this feature. Bluetooth, enable, disable, brightness, up and down, charge mode, standard or customize. Let's see what happens when you click customize. Okay, so customize, you can tell it to go anywhere from 60% on the low end up to 100%. So you can say only charge the battery to 60% or 80%. This will help make your battery last a lot longer when you are trying to prolong the life of the lithium ion battery on the inside. It's recommended to keep it to, 60% or less generally. Display output switch. This is where you can switch your monitor. Or you can hit right click on the desktop and go into your display settings. Dolby Atmos, which is your sound control. It's a little quick launch right there. Night light mode, which will change everything to an orangish tint. NVIDIA control panel, which we can click here and it should open. I don't know if we've opened it before. Yes, we did. Okay, so NVIDIA control panel. This is where we can control NVIDIA Optimus. So we've got automatic select enabled currently, and it's on discrete graphics, so we can see which one is enabled. We have Optimus, which will switch it between the integrated graphics and the dedicated graphics as well. So automatic select or Optimus is probably the way you want to go typically. But if you want to go max performance, or if your laptop's not loading the right GPU for some reason, sometimes it does that because Windows is not a very good system sometimes. You can click NVIDIA GPU only mode and it will switch it for you so that you're always on the NVIDIA GPU. Now, the one downside here is that there is no way to force it into integrated graphics only mode, which is a good way to preserve your battery life and prevent the RTX 4090 from kicking on and taking down your battery life prematurely. Overall, I like that there's Advanced Optimus, so that's huge. I like it. Now, in terms of power control, right here on the general page, we do have fan mode. So we have normal, turbo, and eco. And then at the top, let me go ahead and zoom out so you can see everything I'm clicking on. All right, so at the top, we can go to fan control, and there's a dedicated section for your fan. If you want to be, you want to make a custom fan profile, you can do a custom fan curve. This one's fixed mode, so you can just be like, boom, 100% fans, or you can click dynamic mode and you can set your own custom fan profile curve, which is great. I love this. You can also control all 4 fans, which is kind of cool. It looks like it automatically does all 4 fans the same, so I guess you can't do them individually, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think so. But turbo fan mode is basically 100% fixed fans, which is what we're going to be testing the laptop with today. Normal, you can see the fan profile curve right here. Eco, you can see how it changes the profile curve, which is cool that you can see these curves so you can get an idea of what it's going to do. And then power is probably a good balance of generally mostly quiet, but it ramps all the way up to 100% if the temperatures start getting above the 90 range. So this is a nice one. Overall, I like this. Probably power is really good for general use. Unless you're wanting to go max performance, then you can click turbo and you're just at that fixed 100% fan profile mode. Normal is also probably pretty good, but I think power increases the power limits while giving you a similar profile curve to normal. So it's not going to be quite as loud. All right, so going back to the section up here, this is one thing I don't like about the Gigabyte Control Center. Notice do you see how there's this ribbon thing at the top right here? You have to click this little arrow and it rotates the 5 items that are at the top. And it's just not user friendly because not everyone's going to notice this little arrow, and it's going to be hard for people to recognize, oh, well, there's fan control over here on the general tab, and then you click here, there's also fan control over here, and why is it like that? When I don't understand. There's like, it's going to confuse the end user. So I don't know why. All of these options should really just be maybe on like a side panel over here to the left, or all 10 of these items should be visible at once because there's not even that many items here. There's enough space to put it all right here at the top. So anyway, that's a small nitpick on the control software design that can be definitely improved. Okay. So overall, this AI Nexus, don't really think it's a big deal and probably not super worth it. I don't think I generally don't think the AI boosting for laptop performance is anything to really worry about or utilize at this time. Maybe at some point it will, but currently no. So here is some AI Nexus options. You can enable the AI boost. You can switch it to creator, turbo, gaming, meeting. These things might have small impacts on performance, but they overly complicate the process of controlling the laptop when it's like, well, what if I have it in eco mode over here, but then in the AI Nexus mode, I go here and I go creator, and then now you go back to general and wait, now it's in power mode. Like, what's going on here? Like, why? Like, you're switching stuff and it's changing settings in the background. You might not realize they're being changed. It's just adds to the confusion for the end user, which is why I'm not a huge fan of the way Gigabyte has set up the fan profile control schemes in this software. It's still confusing, just as confusing as the 2023 version. And without tons of testing, it's going to be hard to know which one is actually going to boost your performance the most in whatever application. Whether, like think about Asus Armory Crate, you slap that sucker in turbo mode and it's going to be going to town as fast as it can go, pretty much, unless you switch it into manual mode, but then, you're going to be super loud on the fans or whatever, So, versus like this, I don't know, does turbo mode in this mean that it's faster with the AI boost than it is? Or is it the same? And what does enabling the AI boost do? I don't know. Like, so realistically, we can change the fan profile here. We can change the fan profile here in the AI Nexus, and we can change the fan profile under the fan control. And I don't know why there's 3 different areas for the same setting, and that's just not good software design. That's my opinion. So, okay. Dashboard, some information about the laptop right here. RGB fusion, you can change the RGB lighting of the keyboard. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So we'll turn some lights off so you can see the keyboard backlighting a little bit better. All right, let's turn this off too. Okay, so right now we're on Rainbow Wave is the current mode that we're on. We'll go to static, which will let you select a color. If you want it to just be an all white backlight keyboard for like a business meeting, you can do that. Pulse, allowing you to switch the lights on and off with a specific color. If you want to change the color, you can do that. Reactive, allowing you to press the keyboard and make it light up after you touch it. Circle, which will do like a snake-like movement. Marquee, which will go up and down in a zigzag. Rainbow, which will do per key RGB in like a similar to the marquee or whatever. Cycle will switch one color like a single zone RGB. Droplet, which looks really cool, one of the cooler looking ones for sure. Hedge is like a light show, I guess. Spiral is like a light show, but in a circle. Rainbow Wave, I think, looks the coolest and classiest, generally speaking. You can control the speed as well as the brightness. So if you want it to go a little bit slower and then its transition, probably looks a little better going a little bit slower. Maybe not too slow, but it looks good. I think overall there's good backlighting options here that are great. I don't think, as far as I can tell, there's no way to control the RGB light on the rear. But let's take a look at the RGB light on the rear now that we have the lights mostly disabled here. Let me turn the light off on the wall behind me. That light looks pretty awesome. It's very bright and it goes in a nice color wave pattern, and maybe it's a little bit segmented for perfect taste, like not quite as smoothly changing as I would love, but still. I'm lowering the exposure to try to get it to not be quite a bit overexposing, but it's very bright light that even when you're in fairly illuminated environments, it still is pretty dang bright overall, which makes it so that it's a cool, actually makes the laptop look kind of cool from behind, is the main thing I would say. All right. Does Aorus have a 4060 version? Well, you can get the 4060 version of the Aorus 7, which is very similar to this, but it's, I believe, an all plastic build instead of a metal. And so that's the primary difference, as well as, it's a lower end CPU and GPU, and it's quieter. Northside Champ says, I run mine in turbo. It is super confusing. Yeah, exactly. Like, you want to be able to know what each thing does exactly, and Usually you'll only want to have one area to click it. There's a lot of options for the RGB, which is nice. Yeah. You got, so looking at north side says, click on the lower portion right there to customize. Oh, right here. Oh, we can customize the rear by clicking on this. Let me see if I can get the camera shot. So now I'm on all one light, or we can do cycle or droplet or curtain, comet, static, pulse, rainbow wave again, or chase. Yeah, rainbow wave looks the sickest, I think, though, so that's why I would just keep it on. Paul 2KB with the €2 super chat. Thank you so much. Says, just got the Aorus 7 i5 4060 17.3 inch. Love it. Yeah, it's one of the laptops I actually still have held on to, and I used it as my Pal World server, believe it or not. I was like, hey, this is a great secondary laptop to hang on to. 360 hertz display is great for especially older titles or esports gaming titles, and it's plenty enough power to play at 1080p resolution, so it feels great, I think, for especially for a more budgety or cheaper laptop. And the build quality is, I think, quite a bit above average for the price point. So I do really like that laptop for the money. Okay, so Gigabyte control. I don't know what this does. This area, not doing anything. Now this update button, when I checked this out earlier today, there was no updates for this. But apparently it went and checked and found more updates today. It looks like this software, the Gigabyte Control Center, has a slight update. And Gigabyte Notebook Library and Storage Library also has some updates. You can also see whether it says it requires a restart. Now, I don't think any of these things are super important to have, except maybe the Gigabyte Control Center for right now. Let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and install this Gigabyte Control Center update and see how long the update takes. You can watch how this works here from Gigabyte. And wow, that was quick. That was like 10 seconds to update the application. That is one of the fastest updates I think I've ever done. I would do these other ones, but it's really not a big deal, and we'll just keep moving on, okay? Speaker test with decibel meter is next. Overall, in terms of the laptop control software, it's workable, but needs some improvements, is what I'm going to say about the laptop control software. Speaker test is next. Let's see how good these speakers are. I want to point out, can you see these fingerprints right here? It's kind of a fingerprint magnet a little bit. You know? This metal right here, kind of a fingerprint magnet. So you're going to want a microfiber handy if you want to have no fingerprints on your laptop. Okay. All right, so in the background here, we have Dolby Access, which will let us switch our music mode or our speakers into dynamic, game, movie, and adjust the EQ if we want. We're just going to do dynamic. Usually that is the best option if you want the loudest volume and overall sound. It's not necessarily the best for every type of music or every type of thing, but it generally has worked the best in the past for laptops with Dolby Atmos in terms of giving us the best clarity and loudest volume. Okay, first up, We have Peter Spacey Roar. Let's go ahead and see how good these new speakers are, or for the 2024 version. Here we go. Speakers leaving a lot to be desired. They're not very bassy. They're not super clear. Not super good mids either. It's just kind of meh all the way through. Faded Aeon Half-Life. Let's try it. So if you could tell, our volume on the volume decimal meter here, not going that high. Right around 42 decibels for our bass room noise. It's not getting loud enough for me. Like, we're only getting like low 80s. A lot of the new speakers are getting like high 80s, maybe 90 in the same exact songs. All right, Deuce Williams, La La Love You Like. Okay, so yeah, again, vocals not that great, bass not very thumpy, mids also not that great. I'd say the speakers are like a 6.5-ish range out of 10. Probably the same speakers from 2023. Highland ERC with the $10 super chat. Thank you so much for the support, man. I really appreciate it. He says, thanks for reviewing laptops we can actually get, not just some fancy 8K laptop or spec that is not purchasable whatsoever. LOL. Yo, I'm happy to do it. Thank you so much for the support. It really means a lot when you guys donate, because, yep, it's very helpful for me as a content creator, so I really appreciate it. Okay. All right. Let's continue on to the next segment. Fan noise testing with decibel meter. We have got... We're going to get 3D Mark, Time Spy installed. We also need to elevate the rear of the laptop. I accidentally closed the lid. There we go. All right. Northside Champ says, one super odd thing about this laptop, Helldivers 2, you get micro stutters if you don't run the game at 1440p native. Any upscaling introduce micro stutters? Well, we'll find out if that happens with us today, because I think that's what we're testing Helldivers 2. Yeah, we got Helldivers 2 on the test bed for today. Okay, so we're going to be running Time Spy today. We're going to do it in a looped mode, custom run. The goal is to tax the laptop with a good amount of CPU and GPU put together to be able to really push the fans to their limit within each fan profile, and at the same time see what kind of power limits the laptop can withstand within each profile to give you an idea of the performance and fan noise combination of each fan profile, which is just very important for your acoustics and how much performance you actually get out of the machine on each mode. All right, so we're going to start out with turbo mode. Dun, dun, dun. Well, there we go. Laptop's doing silly things right now. All right, turbo mode is next. All right, so turbo mode should provide us the best, I think, GPU wattage to the GPU, and probably the best boost clock. Let's just make sure that we are running a 0. Okay, we're on 200 overclock. Let's get. I'll just do a 100/50 overclock because that's just so common among all of the laptops out there. It's like a huge disadvantage if we don't do that on this laptop. Okay, so here we are. We're in turbo mode. Let's take a look at our wattage. 174, 170. We saw 169 for a moment. Our boost clock over 2000, 2040, and went a little bit under 2000, 2100, averaging between 2000 and 2100, which is not terrible. Notice that we're getting some stutters here, some interesting frame time stutters that are pretty rare. I'm wondering why we're getting those stutters, because we are not out of VRAM, we're not out of regular RAM, and nothing else is open right now. So you can see we get our stutter, dropped our 1% lows, quite a bit lower there. Yeah. Do you recommend the Asus TUF F15 for a budget? Yeah. Yeah, I do think the Asus TUF F15, when you get the right price on it, it can be quite good. It's one of the better, more budgety laptops, but definitely wait for a sale. Don't pay full price for it, okay? All right, so our wattage on the GPU is looking pretty good most of the time. We're getting little stutters though here. I don't know what's going on with these little stutters. That is a little disappointing that we're stuttering a little bit, right? I don't know if it's the power limit is getting hit and it's like reducing our boost clock around the same time each time. Not sure. Maybe we should try taking off the overclock just to make sure that it's not because of our overclock we've added. All right, no overclock is being applied now. Let's see if that fixes our stutters at all. I still see a stutter right here. Another stutter there. So I don't think that's affecting anything. All right. Well, not sure why we're getting little stutters. That's a little disappointing. We'll see what we actually get in gameplay, see if the same stutters are occurring in gameplay or not, and in the other fan profile modes. But our wattage is pretty good. We're at least getting up into the 170s pretty often. We're not staying pegged up there in the 170s though. Notice we're getting down to 165 sometimes. And that does happen to almost all of the gaming laptops, but you know, typically I like it. I like the 175 watt gaming laptops to stay close to 175 in something like Time Spy like this, okay? CPU wattage is 55 watts. That's a good amount of wattage that's the CPU's taking up while we're still maintaining the 170 watts plus-ish range on the GPU. So that's really good. I really like the overall combination here for the performance on CPU, GPU utilization, but the stutters are the downside right now. Now, combining this amount of wattage with how thin this chassis is, 66 degrees on the GPU is excellent. 74 degrees on the CPU, also excellent. So for thermals, when we're talking thermals, that's impressive. All right? That's impressive overall thermally. The main downside right now is the stutters. So let's talk fan noise and see how loud this guy is. Here we go. Keep in mind it's 42 decibels bass. 57.2, 57-ish decibels in max fan mode. It's not too loud for a max fans. Considering this is a 4-fan system, that's pretty good. Let's go down to the power mode. We're going to go to the power fan profile mode. All right, that's going to ramp the fans based on the temperatures that we're seeing in the system. Okay. So Northside Champ says, so can you overclock this laptop? Again, I'm new to laptops, so I don't know. Yes, you can overclock this laptop with a tool, just like I just did. I actually did overclock the laptop a moment ago. Something like MSI Afterburner, this little tool right here. You can click into these areas right here and boost the GPU clock speed and GPU memory clock speed. And that'll give you a slight boost in performance, up to 5 to 10% depending on the silicon lottery on your laptop. Okay, so we are in power mode now, and we are still seeing stutters on the GPU timeline. I don't know why we're seeing stutters. It's a little bit disappointing that we're seeing stutters. Gonna be honest, I'm definitely feeling feeling that little heart disappointment that we're getting the stutters. I'm like, why? What's going on? My dogs are barking about something. Let's go ahead and see the fan noise and see how loud this guy is. Power fan mode. Here we go. .8 decibels is pretty dang impressive, especially considering the power fan mode has given us close to the, over 170 watts, it's a full performance of the laptop, but we're only 52 decibels and it's a thinner chassis. That's really good. Overall temps are also still pretty good, around 69 degrees and 75 degrees. So impressive power fan profile performance, in my opinion, for a thinner, lighter laptop. At least for, a full power 4090, 17-inch. Okay, so we're in normal fan profile mode. This should drop our wattage on the GPU pretty significantly. Maybe the wattage on the CPU as well. Let's go ahead and see what it does. I'm going to see if I can get my dogs to stop barking for some reason. I don't know why they're barking. I'll be right back. Well, we got to let the fans kind of accumulate, percolate, distribute the heat through the system. So. No. Okay, so it looks like performance is around the 145. Let me tilt the camera correctly here. 140 to 160 watt range, maybe averaging close to 150. Lots of 1% low stutters here going on. Not sure why though. That's the thing. What's the reason? Overall performance is still rocking for how quiet this machine is right now. It's very impressively quiet for how much wattage we got going through here. So let's go ahead and see how loud it is now. 47.5 decibels in normal mode with up to 150 to 160 watts on the GPU. It's impressively quiet. Temps are still in a reasonable range in the 70s as well. Low 70s for the GPU, high 70s for the CPU. Very impressive temps. Clock speed on the GPU noticeably lower at only 1700, 1800 instead of 2000 something. You know, we're going to lose 10% performance, but the laptop is like very quiet overall. So very impressive. Whoa, 190 watts. I saw it for a second. Okay, so let's go to the AI Nexus and just switch it into AI Boost mode. AI Boost mode is on. What does that do to our system here? Okay. AI chose gaming mode as the mode to go into. We're still seeing some stutters happening. Temperatures are getting much higher in the AI gaming mode right now. Fans are ramping up though. We got to let everything kind of, you know, percolate and get the fans go up. Temperature should come back down again. We're hitting 170 watts, so we're getting the full performance in the AI mode, which is nice. We're still seeing stutters occurring with this AI mode. Very odd stutter behavior. Let's go ahead and see how loud we are now that the AI mode's been going on. "55 decibels for AI mode." So it's almost max fans. AI mode translates to almost max fans. I am worried about this stutter. It is only time spy, but we'll have to see if this stutter translates into the rest of the laptop's performance. So yeah, we're going to do that shortly. First, though, I have a bunch of benchmark results for you. So first of all, you can see we've done the speaker noise, our speaker test, fan noise testing now. It's time to move on to the AIDA64 RAM speed test, CrystalDiskMark, and Cinebench R23 and Time Spy. I've got those numbers for you right here. So let's go ahead and pull up Cinebench R15, which is the first time I've done this in a long time. Wow, Cinebench R15, 4,409. Yeah, let's get rid of the on-screen rear tuner. Okay, and 250 FPS for the OpenGL benchmark. AIDA64 memory test. All right. So this one's actually pretty good, above average, but it's not the best we've seen. Latency, 85 nanoseconds is a strong point. A lot of the laptops I've been testing are in like the 120 to 140 nanoseconds, so this is quicker on the response time. Read speed, 85,000, write speed, 77, copy, 78. So those numbers are also pretty strong, but we have seen better. Over 100K for the faster, higher speed RAM out there. But it probably won't impact performance pretty much ever, I wouldn't think. L1, L2, L3 cache. We have good speeds overall. Nothing to really complain about with the memory. DDR5, 5600 for our overall speeds here. And that's your memory speed test. Let's move on to Cinebench R23. This is a 10-minute test in turbo mode, 25,256 for a 10-minute turbo mode test. Single core, 2,098. This number right here, 25,258, It's a very high number, but it's not that high for the i9 14900HX, which should be closer to 30,000 if the i9 is able to run at full speed. And so this is about a 5,000 point deduction from what I would expect a full powered i9 to pull. So 5,000, it's about a 20% loss or 20% gain could be had if you had a more powerful i9. Still more powerful than almost any of the other CPUs out there that do multi-core rendering performance. So unless you're talking about another i9 or the Ryzen 9 45HX, which is a 16-core 32-thread part, those are the only two that could potentially be faster than this laptop. It's just a slower version of one of those, basically. Cinebench R24, 22,724 for the GPU, 14,051 for the CPU multi, and 121 for the single. The single scores are also pretty good, no problems there. The main issue is the multi-score score is a little bit lower. And this is, again, 10-minute tests with Cinebench R24. CrystalDiskMark, we did 4,900 for the megabyte read speed. Write speed was only 553. So write speed slower than I would ideally like. Probably might be noticeable as well, having this slower write speed in the mix. Notice that our SSDs are in not RAID 0, right? They are in no RAID, just two separate SSDs, 1 terabyte each on here. And yeah, not super fast in terms of their write speeds, but the read speeds are really quick. And so when you're loading video games and loading files off the SSD, this is the speed that really matters. And for writing stuff to the SSD, unless you're copying from another super fast SSD, you're probably not going to have faster write speeds than this anyway, from like an SD card or a USB stick or downloading a file off the internet. So I don't know, the write speeds aren't too big of a deal, but they're definitely slower than a lot of the competing SSDs that we've seen from other brands this year. So that's the main thing I would say there. I believe that covers everything except TimeSpy. Now I did TimeSpy in normal mode. This is with the normal fan profile, and this is what we got, 19,371. So this is with the lower power limit, super quiet, only 47 decibels for this, okay? So overall, very quiet overall gaming experience. Still getting 19,000 is really good. CPU score, about 15,000, also pretty good. This is with turbo mode with a 200/200 overclock. So with the turbo mode and the 200/200 overclock, we got 21,688, which is much better than the normal mode. So this is very close to a peak performance RTX 4090, very similar to the Scar 18 performance, but it's not as fast as the factory overclocked Titan 18HX, which gets closer to 22.5 or 23,000 with the overclock like this. So the CPU score being 17,000, that's actually pretty good. We have seen i9s go all the way up to like 19,000 though, so it's not the best we've seen. This is turbo mode without the overclock. So 21,000 basically for the GPU score right here without the overclock. 16,800 for the CPU score. Still pretty good, but not amazing. For how thin the laptop is, this is a much smaller laptop comparative to the Titan and the Scar 18. It's also much lighter weight than the Titan and Scar 18. So this is a more portable laptop, slightly less performance. I feel like it's a pretty good trade-off in terms of performance versus portability, at least from a raw synthetic benchmark perspective. I don't have Jedi Survivor installed. You can see the games that we'll be testing today. Jedi Survivor is very poorly optimized though, so it's one of those things where it's a dev issue primarily rather than a laptop issue as much. And notice the return of Counterstrike 2 on today's benchmark. Just wanted to point that out. So I believe that covers everything for all of these tests right here. Let's go into Apex Legends next. And we're gonna see what kind of FPS we can get in Apex Legends. I need to rearrange the camera and everything here, so just give me a second. Okay. We're gonna scooch this over, we'll put like that. Beautiful. Okay, so we're gonna try to keep an eye out on the frame time graph in particular and see if we're gonna see major stutters in normal gameplay, like we were seeing in time spike, because right now that's my current most important concern. We're also gonna go ahead and double check our settings here. We're gonna go to max settings for Apex Legends here, and we're gonna go ahead and see. Always sprint. Did I unbind W? I apparently unbound W by accident. Okay. So far, things are looking really good in terms of performance. Let's also go into here, and we're going to set our performance to turbo fan mode, okay? So turbo fan mode, gonna give us the most possible performance in general. So G-Sync, Advanced Optimus, we're not looking at any screen tearing. Screen tearing is looking good. Okay, so here we go. Let's go ahead and shoot some guys. Averaging 253 so far. Pretty good, but our 1% low is not... Okay, 1% low is getting a little better. Maybe things were loading in. 170 for our 1% low now. Things are looking good. Especially for ultra settings or highest settings, things are looking superb. And we're not running into any of the 1% low stutters that we were in Time Spy. So that's really good. I was definitely concerned seeing those stutters. Let's go ahead and switch it to low settings now. We should be getting closer to 300 FPS, which is the maximum frame rate this game offers. Things are looking very smooth. Though I can't seem to hit the guy. LOL. We're going for headshots here. There we go. So now we're doing 298 FPS, 220 for a 1% low. Things are looking great, and it's a very responsive gaming experience on here. Things are looking smooth. I like it. No problems, in my opinion, so far, from a gaming perspective. I'm going to try to scoot the chair a little bit closer so it's a little more comfortable to game on. All right, let's go into a team deathmatch. Paul 2KB says, it says a lot about Witcher 3 that it's still used to test FPS on laptops all these years later. Amazing game. Yes. So The Witcher 3, an amazing game, but in 2023, so less than a year ago, they actually revamped the game engine in The Witcher 3 and added frame generation and DLSS 3 and ray tracing. So it made the game pretty hard to run again. But at the same time, giving us some of the latest technologies for the game. So that's why I added it. Plus, it's absolutely a must-play game if you're a gamer, I think, and you like RPG games of any kind. Okay, so we have the... I'm going to mute the squad for now. So things are looking good. Let's see here. So am I going to... sorry, I'm going to pick Pathfinder. This guy wanted it. I feel bad, but... Parky says, hello, Brand. Just love the look of this laptop and the cooling design implemented 71, 73 degrees Celsius. Yeah, temps are looking really good overall so far. Let's see what we get into the next game. Or like once we get into the actual gameplay, because it kind of limits your frame rate during the initial picking screen. Go Hemlock. Okay, so I've reset the FPS counter. Got a little bit of stutters, getting us down into the 50s right now. You can see the frame time graph not being super smooth, which is not good. I think it'll improve as we get everything loaded into the game, though. Oh, I did 40 flesh to that guy. Oh, this is team death. I was like, why do I have more than 2 teammates? It's because it's team deathmatch, so it's a battle of survival for, you know, I think it's 6 on 6 right now. Let's go up top, see if we can flank some people. Perfect. I'm gonna reset our FPS graph. It's looking cleaner now. Oh, and then it got a little bit stuttery on us. Don't know why we're getting some stutters there. Kind of too bad. I would say Apex Legends performance is a little disappointing given how stuttery it is right now. Oh, yeah, it's hard to aim because we're getting all these little stutters here going on. Let me see if I can enable reflex plus boost. Maybe that'll help us. Doesn't seem to be helping us. Let's do no reflex. That was disappointing. FPS graph looking better and then worse and then better and then worse. Wow, that was good shooting on his part.
Don't worry, I have returned automatically.
This is one of the rare situations. I will try turning on VSync and seeing if it helps us or not. I think it'll just make the problem worse though. Two people flanking me from behind at the same time. Yeah, they got me good. Yeah, this is disappointing. It's hard to play right now, y'all. It's really hard to play. It's painful for me. Boom! Shotgun to the face. Pretty sure that was an enemy, right? You little bitch! Oh god, I can't believe it's no! Oh god! Okay, it's so hard to shoot it. When it was up there, it was like, and it's stuttering a little bit. It's very disappointing right now in Apex. Like I am disappointed in Apex. Like this performance is sad for me. I don't know why it's stuttering, but this is I could not play very well like this. So last death, and then we're gonna move on to the next game. Okay, got another kill before I died here. Overall, not very impressed with the Apex Legends experience. Sadly, 1% low stutters, not performing well. I don't know why. I don't know why. Can it just be this game? It might just be this game. But we're going to see what we do in the other games. You know, we had stutters in the... I don't know, like I want to... Let me just check the control panel. I am pretty sure I updated the NVIDIA driver here. I just want to make sure the NVIDIA driver is a more recent one. Yeah, 552 is very recent. So NVIDIA driver, very up to date. Something else is going on. This display looks really good. I'm gonna be honest, like this display definitely looks good, and it's bright enough for this room environment that I'm in. Ultra graphics preset, DLSS on quality. 2560 by 1440p resolution. Let's go ahead and load into the game. Is this normal in laptops, Max? No, this is not normal in laptops. This is disappointing to me that we are stuttering like that. Now, Baldur's Gate 3 normally has 1% low stutters when you change character perspectives, but not like during the middle of a turn. Like right now, it's pretty normal to not experience any kind of character stuttering. Things are looking good right now. No stutters here on the timeline graph. This timeline graph is the frame time. If it goes up and down, it indicates that the frames are not being delivered consistently. Like right here, there's a little stutter. Not really, wouldn't really see that though. It needs to be a big stutter for it to be noticeable. Okay, so initially, first impressions, we're very CPU bound, but we're doing very good FPS. No problems initially. Let's go ahead and reset our benchmark. Let's go and end turn. Now, typically when we switch characters, there will be a bit of a stutter. That's normal. So overall, things are looking great so far in Baldur's Gate 3. No issues. Yep. The 1% lows are, you know, like I said, they're normal. They're actually pretty good. Oftentimes it goes down into the 30s, but we're averaging, well, it went into the 30s there, but most of the time so far we've been doing in the 40s, 50s, 60s. And there you go. That's the benchmark, 178.50 for our 1% low. Overall, that's good Baldur's Gate performance and no issue. But I will say that we have seen higher FPS in Baldur's Gate 3, even at a little bit higher resolution, QHD+. So I will say that the performance is great, nothing to complain about by any means, but we have seen better, closer to the 220 mark in something like the Titan and Scar 18. So, yeah. Looks like the GPU and CPU are fighting over that power. Sometimes CPU is 100 watts, then 50. It could be, Meg. It could be. You know, maybe Apex Legends will stutter less with a different fan profile. Maybe. It's probably something to do with the CPU, the BIOS, and the firmware the Gigabyte's got there. So we'll see if we run into stutters playing this at all. Counterstrike 2, newly released fairly recently. And we'll go full screen, 240 hertz. We're going to go to the very high preset, which is the max settings. All right, and we're going to enable developer console, and we're going to do CL_show FPS 1. All right, and we're going to do deathmatch on Dust 2. Paul 2KB says, how does a 4090 get stutters? It should be run everything perfect. Well, so the thing is, you actually have to have, that was nice, little quick headshot there. You actually have to have good performance. Wow, 3 kills with 1 magazine on the MP5. You have to have good CPU performance as well in games. So right now we're doing in the 200s to 300s range, which is fantastic. Oh, I headshot him, but it wasn't quite enough to kill him. Oh, we're murdering right now. Doing the murder. That's like 6 kills in like 10 seconds. We're playing this short A game. Real good. Oh, yes. That's 10 kills. Oh, 10 kills in a row. I feel pretty good about that. Okay, just looking at strictly FPS counting right now, it's good. It's real good. Over 200 FPS. We're getting, and this is very high settings. And I'm not feeling any stutters at all in this game. It's a very optimized feeling. Very optimized feeling. It's super smooth. 16 kills, 5 deaths so far. We know there was someone over here a moment ago. Let's see if he's still over there. Shotgun. Oh gosh. Yeah, it's tough to kill someone with a shotgun in this game unless you're point blank. Woo! Scout headshot, baby. Ah! Body shot. You have to land 2 body shots with the scout or a headshot, so it's pretty rough. Let's switch to the Nova. Close. Okay. Overall, last death, and we'll move on to the next game. Playing extremely smooth in absolutely like buttery smoothness. So far, this in Baldur's Gate 3, no issues, but Apex Legends, sadly, for some reason, we were stuttering in Apex Legends. So we're going to keep going. On to the next game. which is gonna be Cyberpunk 2077. All right. Okay, so someone was wondering, how does an RTX 4090 stutter? And there's a lot of different ways it can happen. The primary way, though, is your CPU and your GPU are they're not running optimally. They're either not hitting the power limit consistently, they're running into thermal limits and it's like throttling. Maybe something's messed up in the BIOS or the firmware, or the CPU GPU wattage is being fought over, going back and forth. And that's causing like a disconnect in the smooth delivery of frames to the laptop's monitor. There could be a driver issue with that specific game. There's a lot of potential reasons why it might stutter, but it's not normal for it to stutter as bad as we saw in Apex Legends. Normally, we're getting probably 150 for a 1% low. Like we were doing 250 or over 250, I think, for our average, but 1% low was struggling at like 50. So that's abnormally low. Something else in the background of your computer sometimes can be running and causing problems, but I don't think that was happening. So we're going to enable all of these settings. So ray tracing on Ultra, full screen, 2560 by 1440p, so QHD, DLSS on quality, frame generation enabled, ray reconstruction enabled. Let's run it, see how we do for our FPS. Luca says, good night. I'll see the rest of the video later. Thanks for these reviews. No problem, Luca. Thanks for stopping by. See you in the next one. Meg says, probably just needs a BIOS or firmware update to balance CPU power, and it would be fine on those CPU-heavy games. Yeah, it's something similar to that, is what I would say most likely. All right, so here we are. 165 watts to the GPU. Good amount of wattage. Not quite perfect, but very good. Not quite GPU bound either. We're like 94% GPU utilization. Very high GPU boost clock. That is really good. Average FPS and frame time graph looking superb, very delicious. 73 degrees Celsius on the CPU, 66 on the GPU. Superb as well for the temps. Averaging is phenomenal with no stuff. Like 120 in Cyberpunk 2077 is phenomenal. So Apex Legends may have been an outlier. Something going on, you know, and Apex Legends did go through some updates recently. It could be something wrong with the game engine itself that needs to be addressed. So if we don't run into any more stuttering with other games, it could just be an Apex Legends problem and not a hardware problem on the Aorus. So 121 for our average, or 120.9, and absolutely superb performance. 108 for our min is phenomenal. So overall, giant 2 thumbs up in Cyberpunk 2077. We'll move into Dead Space next. Black Clover, we're just going to keep moving through the benchmarks. I want to keep the live stream as concise as I possibly can. Paul A says, does anyone know what GPU this laptop has? It's a RTX 4090 laptop version, which is very similar to a desktop 4080, but with lower power limits. All right, so we're going to check our options. No VSync. QHD 240 Hz is correct. We'll apply those settings. DLSS on quality. And we want the Ultra Graphics preset. All right, so frame time graph in Dead Space for some reason is almost always messed up, and it almost always plays smoother. That's not a mess up. This was actual stuttering that I could see. Like it was a mess up. It's not just like the frame time graph showing weird frame timings. Like generally speaking, like I can look around and play extremely smooth. It doesn't feel like 23 or whatever for our 1% low that we're getting right now. Just Dead Space does that. 105 FPS so far is very good. We are pretty CPU bound though. You see this? Only 56 watts going to that CPU. GPU at 70. We have seen higher FPS performance for these settings at a slightly higher resolution though, but we've seen like 120 to 135-ish for some 4090s. We'll see when we get done with the actual benchmark area, which is when we turn around from right here. All right, so here we go. We'll see what we get for our actual average walking down. Our CPU power jumped to 100 something, and now it's back to 55. You know, Meg was talking about how the CPU and GPU might be fighting over power, and I think that may be true. You know, I think the CPU and GPU may be jumping back and forth in terms of like trying to figure out which one should take more power. Like right there, it just jumped again. I think the firmware or BIOS on this laptop probably needs a little bit more tweaking to get it to be perfect. I mean, generally speaking, the gameplay experience in this is going to be pretty dang good. 108, at least so far. 29 for 1% low is not amazing. Again, keep in mind this frame time graph is not really accurate. I don't think this 1% low is accurate. It feels way smoother than 29. Like just moving around and looking around, it feels really smooth. So feels more like 60 or 70 for 1% lows. It's weird. Dead Space is weird. So overall for our average though, 108, it's good, but we've seen better. I would hope closer to 120 would be more ideal. Dragon's Dogma 2, one of the least optimized games of 2024 that has come out so far. Despite that, it is a very popular game because of the story and the writing and all of that. So we're going to be testing it today. Clark says, I'm not buying anything until I can sync a 600 FPS laptop with a 600 Hertz TV monitor. Good luck with that, Clark. I mean, maybe in League of Legends. Is that what you want to play? You want to play League? You can probably get 600 FPS in League, maybe. All right, so QHD resolution, DLSS on quality. We're going to go to high graphics preset, DLSS on quality, ray tracing enabled. We'll save those settings. Load in from last save. Let's see if the devs have done any more optimization. So one thing I noticed right off the bat, loading into Dragon's Dogma, I didn't have to select the correct resolution. It did my native resolution correct for once. We're in the 70s right now, averaging 78 FPS. That's actually pretty good for Dragon's Dogma 2 at QHD with ray tracing on and everything. Actually, it's pretty good. Okay, there were some dips there. It went a little bit stuttery on the frame time for a moment, but things are looking pretty good going in here. 7, it's dipping. Let's see how bad it gets when we get into the city area here. It's still very playable right now. This game definitely doesn't require more than 60 FPS. It's generally pretty dang smooth, or it's not smooth. It's pretty dang not high FPS game because you can shoot arrows without even aiming. 65 for our average, 26 for a 1% low. Low 1% is not that good. 65, that's going to be very playable and good enough, but it's not great. This is also one of the most CPU demanding areas of the game, and you will get more FPS when you run out into the wilderness. The countryside, what dipped into the 30s there for a moment for our average or our live FPS graph. Basically, when you got a ton of NPCs on the screen, that's when it really starts to struggle. So the FPS graph will get tighter and better overall the more we get into the wilderness away from all the characters. See how the FPS graph is coming up now. It's tightening up. So like it's getting more of a fine line. Now we're into the over 100 FPS for a second there. A few stutters. Daytime is coming in. It's really changed. Like this game has a nice daytime nighttime cycle. And we've done enough testing in this area to go through a full daytime nighttime cycle now. This guy is gonna want to fight for me. Oh, thank you. So there you go. There's Dragon's Dogma 2. It's going to be playable. It's not going to be a super smooth experience in the city because of poor game optimization. But as far as compared to other RTX 4090 laptops, it's very similar because it's a very CPU-bound game. Zuzu says, "Hi, bro. Keep up the good work. Well done." Thanks, Zuzu. Straight Chillaxin says, "Nothing has yet to dethrone the value king, the GP68HX 12900HX with the 4080. That's a very good value laptop, especially if you get it for like $1,600–1,700 when it's on a really good sale. That's a very good laptop. The main downside with it is you don't have a high quality screen. So that's your trade-off. It's a low quality screen. But in terms of putting out high frame rates for cheap money, Straight Chillaxin, you are right. It is phenomenal for that. Okay, so QHD resolution, DLSS on quality. Graphics will be on ultra mode, which is the way I'd probably want to play this game. Let's see what kind of FPS we get. All right, so we're in the 120, 130 range. Looking very, very good here at the start. Let's see what FPS we average throughout the little run here. 125, I would say, is your similar-ish to what you can expect from other top-end laptops. Like full-size, high-performance 4090 laptops. And right now we're doing 119.55. So 119 is really close. Again, we're dealing with a thinner RTX 4090 laptop. 55 for a 1% low. Pretty good. It's going to be a very smooth, playable experience. And if you want to go even higher FPS, you just go into graphics preset. You drop it down to original. And it's still going to look almost the same. And now we're getting like 20 more FPS, and 1% low also came up a little bit as well. So, but visually speaking, it's kind of hard to tell the difference between ultra and original, in my opinion. So, overall, that's going to be a great God of War experience. Hogwarts Legacy, the new Harry Potter game from last year. I played the crap out of this game, beat it all the way to the end, played the story through, and didn't quite do all the side quests, didn't 100% everything, but I did, I don't know, I'm guessing like half the side quests at least. There's a lot of side quests in this game. Like almost every character you run into, you can do a side quest with them, or for them. Like go retrieve this thing, or go find this doodle dad in a cave and bring it back to them, and they give you a reward or something. So overall, definitely a super fun game if you're a Harry Potter fan. Now, the thing about Hogwarts Legacy is when it first came out, it was horribly optimized. The devs for Hogwarts Legacy have done a nice job improving the game over the last year in terms of optimization. But I've noticed some laptops really get great frames and great 1% lows, and some laptops don't for some reason. And still trying to figure out the exact reason for why. Like right now we're preloading the shaders. I would say one of the biggest reasons why the laptops don't get high FPS and high 1% lows is because of the RAM utilization. The game does usually take more than 16 gigs of RAM if you want to run everything on ultra. So DLSS on quality, frame generation is enabled, ultra with ray tracing enabled. Let's go ahead and load into Hogsmeade. All right, so here we go. Wow. So initial impressions, 175 FPS is freaking awesome. That is amazing. That is so good. Okay? That is super good. Notice that we are pretty CPU bound here, or we were pretty dang CPU bound. I think the system is trying to figure out which way to go here on whether the GPU should be optimized, the CPU should be optimized or not. I don't know. That's interesting. All right, so let's go ahead and do our initial run through where we load in make sure all the game assets are loaded in. Notice the RAM utilization, over 20 gigs being allocated so far. It'll probably keep going up. Like this number will keep going up as we load the whole city into the RAM. And usually there's like 1% low stutters as everything gets loaded in for the initial run through. And then the second time we run through, usually it's a bit better. At least if you have enough VRAM and regular RAM as well. So notice that we are using 10 gigs of RAM right now, or 10 gigs of VRAM and 21 gigs of regular RAM. So if you have an RTX 4070 or below, you're probably going to run into VRAM stuttering and have to turn textures down to medium or maybe even low to prevent stuttering. Okay, so here we go. Here's our actual benchmark run. 150 FPS so far on average is insane. It's super good. 1% lows though are struggling at 19, but generally the frame time graph is looking pretty good with a few spikes here and there as a bunch of characters come into the screen. Okay, so there we go. 144 FPS on average is far above average compared to most RTX 4090 gaming laptops I've tested previously. I would attribute this primarily to Hogwarts Legacy dev optimization. 1% low performance was not great during our run through. It's looking pretty amazing right now though. The frame time graph, if I were to start it again, we're doing 100, like 9170 for our frame time graph. It's really good if you're not running through a crowded area. It's going to be really good. Very smooth gameplay, except maybe when you're going through, intricate areas with lots of characters, you'll run into some stuttering, which is probably a game problem primarily. Maybe higher wattage to the CPU could help fix that as well. Okay, let's go ahead and move into our next game, which is going to be Starfield. Overall, Hogwarts Legacy performance was, I would say, A. It's not quite A+. A+ would be higher 1% lows for sure, because it's very good average FPS. Like it's A+ average, but for 1% lows, it was like, we're not doing great. All right. So we're going to go to the Ultra Graphics preset. No dynamic resolution rendering. FSR 3 with frame generation enabled. Go ahead and hit continue. Alaman says, I bought the Acer Predator Helios 16 14900HX and the RTX 4080 for $3,200. What do you think of it? I think that is not a great price. I'm going to be honest with you, Alaman. I don't think that's a sales price. And I don't think that, I would say that combination, if it has the mini LED 240 hertz display and 32 gigs of RAM, I would say it should be 2,800 would be a closer to good value. If it doesn't have the mini LED display and it's only 16 gigs of RAM, then that's kind of a bad deal, I would say, at 3,200. If it had a 4090 for 3,200, I would say that's a good deal again. Mainly just because the Predator, here's the thing though. Predator Helios 16, 2024 version, which is the one you got, it is redesigned. It does look a lot nicer. I need to check it out. So it's just mainly that's a 4080 for 3,200 is pretty steep price if you're talking US dollars. So, all right, let's go ahead and run forward. And I say that because if you look at the Acer Predator Helios 16 that's on my laptop sheet with the top deals, if you click the link in the description to my gaming laptop list, there is an RTX 4080 Predator Helios 16 for only $17.99, which is almost half the price of what you paid for almost the same specs. So that's why I'm saying it's not worth what you paid, by a pretty decent margin, probably. Okay, so 128.67 for our 1% low. That's great. Great average, great 1% lows. Things are looking sharp. This is FSR3, which is going to slightly increase input latency, but FSR3 looking really good overall. I think from a visual perspective, there's very little visual artifacts from FSR3, and it increases the smoothness, makes the gameplay a little bit better for Starfield. So I like it, and 1% low is looking absolutely superb as well. So excellent Starfield performance, love it. Witcher 3, let's go. Tyrone says, love your live streams, dude. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Vice Fusion X says, do you think $22.99 Canadian is good price for a Vector 16HX with the i9-12900HX? So the important thing to keep in mind about the i9-12900HX is it has less cores than the 13900HX. It's not going to be as good for multi-core rendering, but it's still going to be a very good gaming CPU. If it's got the QHD 240Hz display, that's a higher color gamut as well, and it's a 4080 for $22.99 Canadian, that sounds like a pretty good deal, Feist Fusion. And I do like the chassis on that Vector 16HX. It's a great chassis. So, and for US dollars, I'm pretty sure that still translates to a good deal. So The Witcher 3, Ray Tracing Ultra, DLSS on quality. Let's go ahead and load into our benchmark area for The Witcher 3. Yeah, the main issue with the Vector lineup is if the display quality is not as good, it doesn't translate to a great gaming experience or as good a gaming experience if the display is like low color gamut and low brightness. It still can be a good gaming experience, but it's just not as colorful. And if you're picky about your displays, you're really not going to like the low color gamut display on the Vector series for 2023 and older. The new 2024 ones, I'm pretty sure they all have good, much better displays, at least 300 nits with 100% sRGB, I think. I haven't tested all of them yet, though. I did get hands-on at CES, and that's what they were saying. They're trying to up the display quality on the MSI laptops, which is like, phew, thank goodness, finally. Though I think some of the laptops, like the Cyborg 15s, can still come with some crappier displays, depending on which one you get and all that stuff. So still got to be at least vigilant with the MSI budget laptops and make sure the display quality is good when you go with the budget MSI laptops. And it will be very highly variable from laptop to laptop with the MSI's display quality. Okay, so Ray Tracing Ultra, DLSS on quality, frame generation enabled, 112 FPS right now, 48 for a 1% low is good. Things are looking up right now in The Witcher 3. Very high GPU utilization, 160 watts being utilized by that GPU. Temps are also looking pretty good, 67 on the GPU, 70s for the CPU. I did see 80 degrees a moment ago, but still overall within safety and within throttle limits. So that's all good in my opinion. Gameplay feels smooth, no issues here. Ray tracing, everything's on ultra. It is just a great gaming experience. I don't think anyone's pretty much going to have issue playing on all ultra settings, ray tracing with The Witcher 3 now with this laptop. So it's very interesting today how Apex Legends and Hogwarts Legacy struggled with their 1% lows, but the other games we're just fine. So we're going to move into the final summary review now. There's a part of me that wants to retest Apex Legends in a different fan profile, because maybe if we did like power mode or we enabled AI boost or some other thing, maybe it would fix the Apex Legends stuttering. Let's just do it real quick. I mean, it'll take us just a couple minutes. Let's try AI boost gaming. Well, let's just do AI boost, and it should detect that we're going to do gaming. So I want to see if this can help fix our CPU stuttering problem. And I wouldn't be surprised if it does. It could. Like, this is like changing your fan profile when something's stuttering like this. I think it's the most likely scenario to help you. So we'll do lockdown. Do you think the MSI Sword 16HX with the i7 14650HX and 4070 is good? It has a 144 Hz full HD display. It's on sale near me for $1,600. Nope. Sorry, man. That is not a good deal. Most likely the display on the Sword there is not going to be a high color gamut or very bright. And a 4070 with a low color gamut display should really be more like $1,200, $1,300, not $1,600. So it's kind of like a double whammy. You know, we've seen RTX 4070s go for as low as $1,000 with a 100% sRGB display in the Asus TUF F15. So that was kind of like the peak best sale we've seen so far on a 4070. But yeah. Yeah. All right, so going into our video settings. Right now we have VSync disabled and video reflex is enabled. There's a part of me that wishes we could change. Let's try borderless window and see if that helps our FPS graph issue. We're still in the 50s, still in the 58s. It's noticeable. I can visually see the stutter and tearing occurring, or not tearing, but like the stutter is definitely still occurring consistently. Things are a little better right now. Well, I managed to do some damage. Look, like the frame time graph is not showing all the little stutters, just the stutters anymore. Let's go ahead and see if we can do it again. And see, there it is. It did it right there. When I did my grapple ability, and notice it's stuttering now that the CPU is pulling more wattage. You see that? Now the CPU is not pulling as much wattage and it's going smooth. When the CPU starts demanding more juice, that's when it's messing up. So that's simply a matter of we got 2 kills. Can't go over there now. Oh, unless it's a friendly. Let's try the... Oh my gosh. Yeah, so the key here is going to be probably well, we got that guy. So let's try creator mode. All right, maybe creator mode will prioritize that CPU consistently. And yeah, it's like, look at the CPU right now pulling 100 watts. That's the problem right there. It's causing all that stuttering to occur. So interesting. Oh, a nice double kill. The main thing is right now what we want is we want this GPU to be consistently fed the wattage. If the CPU starts taking up our wattage, that's when problems occur. So and right now in creator mode, it's been awesome. What are these little barrier things? What? Oh, interesting. Wow, you're so good. Yeah, our FPS is holding rock solid steady, 160 right now. 168 for a 1% low in creator mode. I feel like creator mode is fixing our problem for us. I couldn't hit that guy. I didn't lead my shots quite enough. See if we can get down in here and contest. Ooh, getting shot from all sides. It's playing so much better. All right. So just creator mode is what you got to do. If you want to Apex Legends, you got to do creator mode. And then that fixes your problem because it keeps your CPU, GPU balanced. Okay. That's really great to know. I'm glad I went back and fixed it or checked it again because that makes a big difference for me. Because I'm an Apex Legends fan and I definitely want that game to work well. So now we only had real bad stutters in Hogwarts Legacy. That was the only game where we actually stuttered. But that's a game where it commonly does that for a lot of different laptops. So it's hard to hold that back against the laptop. Do you think VBIOS swapping would be worth it? Maybe. Maybe. You might be able to get a little more performance out of this guy with a more aggressive VBIOS, like a 175 watt VBIOS. Okay, so let me pull this guy a little closer. Time to do the final summary review for the Aorus. All right. What's up and welcome to my final summer review for the Aorus 17X. Today we're going to talk about everything that we tested in the full 3+ hour live stream. We went over all of these benchmarks, games, testing, unboxing, display testing, speaker testing, fan noise testing. We're going to talk about all of that in a quick summary format here. Now, first, value comparison versus the competition. This laptop includes almost all of the key features that the highest end laptops do at a lower price point, say compared to like the Blade 16. This has Windows Hello, this has G-Sync, this has Advanced Optimus, this has a per key RGB backlit keyboard, and it's got a high color gamut display. But it does not have secondary key lighting on the keyboard, which is a downside. You also don't have 16:10 aspect ratio. You have 16:9, and I feel like they could have fit a 16:10 aspect ratio display on here with a little bit more effort. So, or a little bit of redesigning. Overall, the laptop itself with its CPU performance is definitely below average compared to the other high-end, thicker machines. Because we only got around 25,000 in Cinebench R23. I think it was 25,000, like 300 for a 10-minute run in turbo mode with max fans in Cinebench R23. And we know that other RTX, other i9-14900HX laptops can get closer to 30,500 or so. They're a little over 30,000. So we're about 5,000 points under the other ultra high performance gaming laptops. Now, 25,000 in Cinebench R23 is still phenomenal, and it's far better than almost all other thin and light gaming laptops out there. So it's an exceptionally good amount of performance for multi-core rendering still. Now, overall, unboxing the laptop was fairly simple. Nice box though, and straightforward. No issues there. We took the laptop apart, and it was pretty easy to take apart, but you will need a Torx T6 screwdriver head that may be a little bit harder to get access to if you don't have a specialized toolkit. There's a link to a better toolkit down below in the video description if you need one. There are quite a few screws taking this thing apart, and it is a metal top bottom deck lid, and the keyboard deck also metal. The keyboard rest did get a little bit warm, but it's not even that warm. It got very reasonable temps overall, and that's primarily because almost all of the heat is up here above the keyboard area, with like the SSDs and battery being contained where the keyboard rest is. Now, the port selection on here is good, but not great. We have one USB-C. That's probably its biggest weakness. We have a mini display port, which some people will like that, but I would rather have a USB-C 3.2 instead of the mini display port to give us a total of 5 USBs on here. As it is, we only have 3 USB-As, and one USB-C, which is a Thunderbolt 4. Now, Thunderbolt 4 does support DisplayPort 1.4 and Power Delivery 3.0, so you can charge the laptop using that Thunderbolt 4 port, which is great. You can use Thunderbolt 4 docks and Thunderbolt 4 eGPU enclosures, which is going to be great for future versatility when maybe like 5, 6, 8 years from now, you want to use an eGPU with a really powerful desktop GPU. You can do that to increase the longevity of your laptop life. Now, touchpad on this is glass, it's smooth, and it's moderately sized. It's not too big, it's not too small. It's a nice like medium balance on the touchpad. You got a nice eagle face on the touchpad, and RGB on this laptop is pretty good with per key RGB lighting and an RGB strip on the rear of the machine as well. And it does look good. It's noticeable even in brighter environments. And this laptop is very thin overall for its power and performance. That's probably its biggest pro versus the competition, because it is so thin, right? Like you're gonna go put this in your backpack versus putting the Titan 18HX or the Scar 18. This is gonna slide into a backpack and take up less room, and it's also lighter weight, about a ½ pound lighter than the Scar 18, or about 1.5 pounds lighter than the Titan 18HX. So from a performance to portability ratio is concerned, for a thin, lighter RTX 4090 that's close to full performance, this is about as good as it gets in terms of thinness plus full performance, or close, like 90 to 95% of the full performance for CPU, GPU relative to the competition out there. Now, it's definitely not going to be the best bang for the buck laptop out there, because this does have the more premium features like G-Sync, Advanced Optimus, and Windows Hello. Those things cost extra. The other major downside of this laptop is display nits brightness was only 347 nits, but the color gamut was excellent at 100% DCI-P3 color gamut with 880:1 contrast ratio, which is, I think, certainly below average for a super premium gaming laptop. So I would love to see Aorus up the display brightness and up the contrast, maybe with a mini LED display in the 2025 version for next year. For the keyboard layout and functionality is excellent with a full-size number pad, and lots of secondary key functionality. But again, the secondary functions are not backlit, which is a little disappointing and will make it harder to actually use the backlight for special key functions in dark environments. And it is going to be noticeable. There will be times you'll be like, oh, I want to turn the brightness down. And you're like, oh, which button is it again? And you won't be able to see the backlit key. And it's a little sad panda mode, right? So you're going to have to look at it real close to be able to figure out which button to press, or you'll press the wrong one or whatever. Webcam quality was pretty meh at only like a 6.5 out of 10. Not very good detail, not very good color replication in my opinion. Windows Hello has been working quite well for me though. No issue there. Bloatware wise, there was no antivirus software on here and no adware pop-ups. I loved that. That was phenomenal. Way to go, Auros. A lot of laptop manufacturers use the antivirus pre-installed to get like a little discount, because the antivirus companies will throw the manufacturers like 10, 20 bucks or something per laptop to get the software installed, and then all the pop-ups come up and it slows your computer down, and there's not really any point as long as you are safe with the things that you download. And of course, if you want antivirus, you can always add that after the fact for whatever antivirus you actually want to use, which is the way I think you should go if you want to do higher risk activities, such as torrenting and downloading riskier files. Okay, fan noise testing was pretty dang good. 57.5 decibels at max fans, 48 decibels for power mode, and I think it was like 53 decibels for power mode and 47 for normal fan mode. So overall, like a great balance of fan acoustics to performance, with normal mode at 47 decibels being like 80 to 90% of the performance of power and turbo mode. So you can have a great balance of fan acoustics versus loudness, especially for such a thin laptop with 4 fans. Now this does have vapor chamber cooling. When we open this up, we got to check out the vapor chamber cooling. It also has 2 SSDs in here, but they are not in RAID 0. And speaking of SSD speeds, it was 5,000 for the read, 5,000 megabits for the read, but only 500 for the write, which is rather on the slower side for these SSD speeds that we see nowadays. Now, for the read speed's the most important thing for actually loading applications and using the files. The write speed's more important when you're transferring big files. So generally speaking, the speed's actually still pretty good, because most like USB-C or other things won't really go faster than 500 megabytes per second anyway. So not a huge deal on the SSD speed, but it's just slower than what other manufacturers have been putting in their laptops, which is a little surprised, because usually Auros does high quality SSDs with really fast speeds. So it was a little surprising to see it, the SSD be on the slower side. TimeSpy was around 22,000 with a 200 overclock, 21,000 without the overclock, and around 19,500 or 19,000 something for normal fan mode when you're in the quiet fan mode, which is still tons of graphics performance for playing games and having an overall quieter experience. Now, for the laptop control software, there's still 3 different areas where you can change your fan profile, and it can be really confusing which one you should choose for which application, and it does impact gameplay and performance potentially by prioritizing the CPU or the GPU over one or the other, increasing the power limits on the CPU, for example, in different modes. It can be confusing to people. Like, I just changed it here. Wait, why did it change there? What, and you're having 3 different areas. They should all be unified into one area. The top row tabs also need to be all fully visible. And there's a few different changes to the software that'll make it better. Updating your software and getting everything installed was a breeze though, and worked flawlessly. So that was good. Okay, speaker test was quite poor. Very poor bass, very poor mids, very poor highs, and overall volume was also pretty poor. I mean, you still can hear the speakers, especially when gaming or doing other things, but don't expect high quality speakers. At best, they're like a 7 out of 10, which is like average for a gaming laptop, which was a little bit surprising considering how big the speakers are on the inside of the chassis. Apex Legends initially was struggling with a lot of stuttering until I went back and tested it again with a different fan profile. Creator mode actually got us much better 1% lows. The primary issue was the firmware was trying to transfer too much power to the CPU and it was choking the power out of the GPU, preventing higher FPS and causing 1% low stutters. So the key was switching to creator mode gave us a consistent CPU wattage, and that gave us 170 for a 1% low, which was way better and felt perfectly smooth. So just know that some games, if you're experiencing some stuttering, you may need to change the fan profile to creator or turbo or to normal. Mess with it until you get it to be smooth. It's kind of sad that you had to do that, or that we had to do that today. And I would really encourage Aorus to go back and double check their fan profiles and make sure that it's not randomly prioritizing the CPU too much like that and choking out the GPU. Baldur's Gate 3, phenomenal performance. I believe it was like 180 FPS on average. 1% low was like a 40 or 50. Very good. Counterstrike 2, we were doing 200 to 300 FPS on very high settings, QHD, very good. Cyberpunk 2077, 120 FPS, very smooth 1% lows as well. And that was on Ray Tracing Ultra. Dead Space, very good performance, but not quite as high as we've seen in other laptops, probably because we are CPU bound and the CPU is only getting 55 watts in Dead Space. So usually in Dead Space, the laptops tend to push like 80 to 100 watts on the CPU. This laptop kept capping it at 55. That's one of the games where you might actually want to throw more CPU juice into the mix to get higher FPS, but it wasn't doing that. So ended up with still a good average and a good gaming experience, but not quite necessarily optimal frame rates. Dragon's Dogma 2, very unoptimized game from dev perspective, and it's, still playable with this laptop. It's going to be about as good an experience as any other, but the lower CPU power limit and utilization on this is going to reduce our overall gaming experience a little bit compared to laptops with higher CPU power limits when gaming. So overall, Dragon's Dogma 2, though, very playable, over 60 FPS in the vast majority of the world, except maybe when loading in lots of NPC characters. God of War, 100, like, what was it, 115? 120-ish FPS, which is still very good for Ultra. 140 on original, very good overall FPS experience. Helldivers 2, which we actually skipped today, which I didn't realize we skipped it. Should we go back and do it again right now? Oh my, probably should. Crap. Okay, should we do it? I think we should, yeah? We got to do it. Otherwise, everyone will be like, where's Helldivers 2? Okay, so we're loading it up. Oh, I didn't have it on my list. Do I have it installed? I don't have it installed. Never mind, we can't do Helldivers 2. See this? I put it on the list, but a lot of controversy around the game with the Sony account being required. Not installed right now, so we can't actually test it. I feel a bit silly there. Sorry about the jumping back and forth, but I should have just double checked that everything was installed on Steam before starting today. Whoops. Hogwarts Legacy, though, was very high average. It was like 140 average. It was hitting the 175 sometimes, which is just absolutely phenomenal. But 1% low was very poor, like under 20 in Hogsmeade. So that's probably because of the CPU wattage not ramping as high again. And that's a game that definitely wants more CPU because it's very CPU bound in an area like Hogsmeade. So overall, though, the gameplay in Hogwarts Legacy should be excellent in 95% of the game. Just certain areas where there's tons of NPCs, like specifically around the castle and Hogsmeade, you're going to still run into stuttering, which is going to happen on most systems anyway. But just so you know to expect it. Witcher 3 was great FPS and great 1% lows. I believe in the 120 range for the average. So that's absolutely excellent. Overall, I mean, the number one issue with this, a slightly about 20% lower CPU performance for multi-core rendering. That's a sacrifice you'll have to make for the thinner overall profile of this laptop. Number 2, you're going to have to sacrifice some poor speaker quality. Number 3, your GPU performance is not quite as high as what we've seen in some of the thicker laptops, but in exchange, you're getting a thinner, more portable system that's easier to take with you on the go, with excellent build quality and excellent hinge design that feels great. Number 4, no secondary keyboard backlighting. Like I said, that's kind of can be a big deal to some people, and it probably would make me want to not buy this personally, just not having the secondary keyboard lighting. No full-size SD card slot, and of course, like I said, port selection not quite perfect, but still pretty good with Thunderbolt 4 support. Overall, this laptop is definitely one I can say is worth buying and worth using, and many people will enjoy using it. It's still not quite perfect, especially compared to the competition, but it also undercuts the other ultra premium laptops, or at least most of them. Much cheaper than the Blade 16, cheaper than the Scar 16. And in that sense, maybe it's still a worthy trade-off for some of the people that don't value a super high bright display. Like, this is still a bright enough display to really enjoy your content in games, and it's colorful enough. But if you're going to be in a lot of brightly lit environments, it's probably not a display that I would recommend to most people. And if you need lots of CPU chops and performance, I would also recommend going somewhere else, because this does not have the highest CPU performance, especially for the i9-14900HX. It's still very good. It's still going to do everything that you want it to do. It'll just take 20% longer to do it when you're doing CPU-bound things, such as multi-core rendering. So overall, it's a good laptop. It's not a perfect laptop. It's worth buying if you get it at the right price. But if it was my money, I think I would lean towards still the Legion Pro 7i if you wanted something that was a bit thicker and higher performance. If you want something thinner, still pretty high performance at a moderate price point, the Aorus 17X is probably a pretty good option for you. So let's go ahead and take a look at chat and see if I can answer any more questions before we end the live stream. Aberforth Apex Legends. I did go over it. We were getting like 260 to 280 FPS in a match and 170 for 1% lows once we switched the fan profile into creator mode. But don't do the turbo. Tyrone, Asus 4090, Blade 4090. You have to clarify which Asus 4090 because there's a lot of different Asus laptops that have a 4090. Alamin, what are your thoughts on the Acer Predator 16, Helios 16 in general? If you get it for the right price, it can be a good laptop. I have not reviewed or gotten hands-on with the 2024 version of it yet. Acer is planning on sending me one, hopefully soon. So I'll be able to actually do a live stream with the Acer Predator Helios 16 for the 2024 edition. Northside Champs 16 says, so am I returning this laptop? Okay, so if you bought the Aorus 17X, the number one question you got to ask yourself is, do you value the thinness of the laptop versus the trade-offs that you're giving for it, which is a lower brightness display, lower speaker quality, and lower CPU performance? If those three things are not deal breakers for you and you value the thinness of the Aorus 17X, I'd say probably keep the Aorus 17X. But if you really want a 1000 nits display and you really want better speakers, and you really want secondary keyboard backlight keys, that's when I would say you probably better go in with another laptop. But I mean, this is not bad performance, especially for its size. It's very good performance for its size, and it's a nice overall chassis, and it's a nice experience using this laptop. Aside from also the control software being a bit janky and the firmware jumping around with the CPU, GPU wattage in certain games causing some stuttering. So you got to keep those things in mind. Yeah. Tyrone wants to know about the Scar 18 versus Blade 18. Scar 18, a little bit better value for sure because it's quite a bit cheaper. Blade 18, certainly more premium with some premium build quality, better speakers, Windows Hello, better webcam, better display options with either 4K ultra high resolution and 200 hertz refresh rate, or QHD plus 300 hertz refresh rate. So you have two options that are really good. And the Blade 18, Scar 18, still a phenomenal laptop for the money, undercutting the Blade 18 by like $600, $700 or something. So you got to kind of be like, well, do I want those extra premium features, or do I want something that is cheaper but has a lot of premium features still? So what's my top three 2024 gaming laptops? My number one is still probably the Blade 18. I really like, for portability, if you want the most portable, I would say the G14 2023 4090 is still the best performance and portability blend of any laptop. Because it's like 3.4 pounds or something, and it's still like cranking 19,000 or 18,000 or something like that in time spy. It's insane. In terms of best budget-oriented laptop, probably like I really like the Aorus 7 for a budget-oriented laptop for esports, and for a more moderately priced, portable, still somewhat premium laptop, the Zephyrus G16 with the right config is really good. Like right now, the Zephyrus G16 on sale is a really good deal because it's like $350 off, and it's got a lot of premium features, but it's still very portable and still very good performance. So yeah, there's a lot of there's like over 400 laptops that are on the laptop list now, and it's kind of hard to narrow them down to top three. But in terms of most premium, best you can buy, no matter what your budget is, I'd say Blade 18. Not the most performance though. Most performance is probably going to be Titan 18HX. Had the best performance so far that I've tested, but the XMG Neo 16 with water cooler is probably the best performance. Best portability, like I said, G14 2023 RTX 4090 version. Those are going to be like, I guess, those three types of categories. What about the G16 Ultra 9 and 4080? Is it good for battery life? It's going to be okay for battery life. It's not going to be amazing for battery life. Scar 16 or this Aorus, which would you choose? I would go Scar 16 because of the mini LED display. That's my personal preference. I do prefer a display that's over 400 nits, and this is only 350 or 347. So it's like, that's what would push me more towards the Scar. But this is also better value because it's cheaper. So if you're more budget, trying to save a little bit of money, that might push you more towards the Aorus. Depends on who you are. Okay. That's all the questions I can answer for today. Okay, I'll do one more. Eric says, what 2024 gaming laptops have good battery life? Look for the Ryzen, like 7940HS or the 8945HS, the 8-core 16-thread Ryzen CPUs in like the Asus laptops, for example, where you can disable the NVIDIA GPU. Those two combinations are going to give you like the best battery life, I think, overall. The Intel Ultra and Ultra 9 can also be pretty good, but probably not quite as good as the Ryzen chips in terms of battery life. But the main thing is you want to be able to disable the NVIDIA GPU if you want to make sure that it doesn't accidentally turn on and drain your battery life too quickly. So that's it for today. We'll see you in the next one. We've got the Acer Predator or Acer Triton 17X coming up later this week. So that's Acer's best gaming laptop, most premium gaming laptop, at least in the 17-inch category. Maybe technically more premium than their Predator series in some ways, because the Triton seems to be all metal in my initial impressions, and it does look and feel very premium. So I was pretty impressed with the initial feel on the Triton. We'll see you guys in the next one. Brandon out.